The story kicks off on a super chill night in the woods, with a tiny lizard just vibing and taking a walk on the ground. Out of nowhere, the ground starts shaking like crazy under some heavy footsteps, sending the little dude running for its life. Right behind it, a squad of orcs armed with axes is sprinting full speed, yelling that they need to bail out their battle bros. But out of the blue, a glowing arrow rips through the sky at top speed right at them. The hit lands dead center on one of the warrior's legs, making the orc wipe out instantly. Down on the ground, he's screaming in pain while his squad tries to figure out who just tagged them. The sniper was a majestic elf, looking down at the whole thing from up high, and totally roasting how basic those creatures are. Standing with his battalion, the elf boss labels the crashers as total pests destroying the forest and demands they just back off. Since nobody's catching a vibe, an all-out brawl breaks out on the spot, with both crews going totally goblin mode on each other. In the middle of the chaos, an orc raises his axe, super raging, ready to deal a game-ending blow. Flexing way better reflexes, the elf dodges it like it's nothing and calls the attack straight up pathetic. Knocking a fresh magic-infused arrow, he warns he's about to send the guy to the lobby with his fallen homies. A glowing green energy wraps around the weapon right as the shot is fired with max power. But before the projectile can even land, massive green dragon drops from the sky, launching a totally OP energy blast at the elves. The force of the attack knocks the archers way back, while the orcs hype up the arrival of the Master of Green, the epic lord of the forest. Touching down hard on the battlefield, the colossal beast posts up, right in the middle of the fighters. Right after that, the dragon starts coughing up green energy, showing it's actually pretty banged up, and tells the orcs to retreat into the dark woods. Sweating the situation, one of the bros asks what's going to happen to their turf. Without missing a beat, the Green Master calls for a temporary tactical retreat from the area. Promising things won't end like this, he swears there's a massive comeback in the future. Spreading its massive wings, the creature makes a super serious vow on its own life. It claims to be the boss that runs the show for all the forests and swamps in the area. Pushing its power to the max limit, it self-proclaims as the lord of everything green and swears payback under the title of the Great Green Dragon. Super hyped, the orcs yell that they'll take their hood back and totally humble those stuck-up elves. Letting out a furious roar, the commander confirms the payback is going to be legendary. Suddenly, a super creepy voice echoes through the area, roasting such an epic promise coming from such a nobody. With zero time to react, the green dragon gets absolutely clapped by a wave of destructive energy. The hit is so brutal it tosses the massive creature backward like a feather. Freaking out over the sudden flash, the orcs scramble for cover while staring at the sky. Bombing at high speed, a huge golden dragon shows up and just body slams the lord of the forest into the dirt. Crushing the rival with its shiny claws, the crasher flexes an insane amount of power. Looking down with absolute disgust, the golden beast calls its opponent the most pathetic, bottom-tier lifeform in the whole dragon family tree. Totally panicking, the orcs spot the danger and scream that the golden pride has finally pulled up to the battlefield. Annoyed by all the yelling, the newcomer aggressively swishes its tail, eating the little warriors super far away. Badly beat up, the green dragon asks who gave this crasher the right to wreck his lands, which he's owned since day one. The reply is just a super mocking laugh, treating the other guy's anger like a terrible joke. Keeping up its arrogant flex, the glowing creature calls itself the original boss of that world. Flapping its giant wings, it takes off, shining even brighter against the night sky. From way up high, it claims its own vibe is the ultimate law that runs the universe. With the elf squad cheering right behind it, the big boss asks if it was supposed to just watch its totally divine dimension get swallowed by the dark. Charging up an insane amount of divine energy, it shows major disgust for those trashy beasts. Mad salty about the disrespect, the forest lord tries to clap back, calling the enemy an annoyingly shiny glow stick. Cutting him off, the Golden Majesty says those were top-tier final words before checking out. Dropping a game-ending light beam, it sarcastically wishes the rival finds some peace in another server. The blast hits the ground with max damage, setting off an apocalyptic explosion that lights up the whole zip code. Taking the massive L and falling toward his end, the green dragon curses its own low stats. In its final moments, it thinks things would have gone way differently if it had the red dragon's OP fire damage. It also stresses over not having the big brain tactics that run the blue dragon's waters. As its energy starts grouping together, it swears that if it had those stats, it would finally get its payback against that arrogant shiny dude crossing time and space. Right then, the scene completely flips, showing a tiny green egg sitting in some guy's hands. The dude holding the item is a soldier, inspecting the weird orb super closely. He holds the egg up to the light, checking out the weird markings all over it. Crouched in a totally wrecked area, the soldier tries to figure out what he just looted in this place. That ruined zone is the Northeast Asian battlefield, right in the dead center of World War III. Moved to a makeshift heady-out, the egg cracks under a light bulb, revealing a tiny lizard licking its lips. Chilling nearby, the soldier is patiently scraping the bottom of a food can. But his break is totally ruined when a buddy pops into the tent, calling him by his rank as vice platoon leader. Without missing a beat, the guy grabs his gear and stands up, hearing that the base maintenance chores are done. Rocking a face mask, Sergeant Lee Jeon tells him to pass the word that he's already on his way. Stepping out of the tent, he walks through the super tight trenches, where the heavy military vibe is just non-stop. Reaching the outside, the sergeant sees his squad crowding around something and asks, "What's good?" One of the guys explains the situation while holding up some cans, saying a kid hiked down the mountain straight to their spot. The outsider is a boy wearing filthy clothes, followed by a white dog, offering up a retro gaming console in his hands. Looking totally desperate, the kid is trying to trade the device and some random trinkets for literally any food. Keeping a super stone, cold face, the sergeant instantly orders them to kick the kid out. The order shocks everyone, freezing the kid right in the middle of the trench while the boss turns to walk away. Showing zero guilt, the soldier walks right past the strangers with heavy steps. Desperate to survive, the kid moves and grabs tight on a Lee Jeon's sleeve. The other soldiers are shook by the kid's guts and try to step in to stop things from getting messy. Whispering among themselves, the rookies gossip about how heartless and totally ice cold the platoon leader is. His arm away hard, the sergeant shakes off the kid, showing his squad that he's basically a monster forged by the war. But with a super fast, low-key move, Lee Jeon slides something straight into the scared kid's hands. Looking down at his hands, the boy's eyes go wide, realizing what he was just secretly handed. The gifted loot turns out to be sealed food containers and nutrition bars, a rare flex of kindness right in the middle of that nightmare. While the kid and his dog chow down with relief, the squad realizes that without that cold-looking dude's leadership, none of them would even be breathing right now. With the kid happily eating, a rookie gets super curious and asks about the boss's old job before the war popped off. The sergeant just shoots a quiet look over his shoulder, keeping up his mysterious, lone wolf aesthetic. While munching on their rations, the soldiers keep chatting in a pretty laid-back vibe. But the peace doesn't last, because one of them bugs out when he spots enemy drones zooming in at top speed. Wasting zero time, Lee Jeon yells for everyone to dip into the trenches and load up on heavy ammo. Instantly, the little flying bots start dropping payloads on the camp, causing total panic in the squad. Ignoring the danger, the soldier sprints out completely solo into the open area. The rest of the squad watches him in pure shock, realizing their commander is moving like a total madman. They yell out in panic for their boss while absolute chaos takes over the battlefield. An explosion goes off super close, sending dirt and debris flying everywhere. During the heavy raid, the squad begs the sergeant to fall back before it's game over. Flexing aimbot level precision, he raises his rifle, 100% locked onto the threat in the sky. Using his own body to shield a downed soldier, the boss fires off laser-accurate bursts upward. The shots connect, totally deleting the drone, but a final explosive drops right at them, just as the soldier starts flashing back to his past. Before this whole war started, Lee Jeon's daily grind was totally different, working part-time at a super chill pet shop. Back in those days, feeding the little reptiles with tweezers was the most relaxing part of his shift. He always thought any living creature was just super fascinating to watch. Hanging out with turtles and other tiny helpless pets was literally the highlight of his day. But his current reality is way more unhinged, forcing him to carry badly hurt bros out of active crossfires. He really couldn't care less about the clout or the amount of medals he gets for playing the hero in the military. Pulling off his helmet looking totally drained, the MC admits he gives exactly zero craps about any of it. Going through non-stop struggles, his only wish was to just keep his normal, low-key routine going. Even in the middle of this dumpster fire, he'd rather be daydreaming about the days he took care of those totally helpless little guys. With a wild dive, the sergeant throws himself at the dirt, trying to block the payload that just dropped. Gripping the object with both hands, he intensely declares that he still wants to make it out alive. The metallic shine of the explosive reflects in his eyes, while time literally feels like it's lagging for a sec. Curled up in the dirt, the soldier braces for the incoming hit, just waiting for the screen to go black. Sweating bullets, he anxiously waits for the blast that's about to wipe the whole zone. Suddenly, Lee Jeon realizes with total confusion that the explosive glitched out and isn't gonna detonate. Looking closer at what he's holding, he realizes it's a weird green egg covered in marks instead of a bomb. Totally lost, the MC hears a loud, booming voice echoing, claiming to be the bringer of shadows from the swamps. The bossy voice calls the soldier a warrior and demands instant loyalty. Flexing its own ego, the entity announces that he's been drafted for a divine side quest. A massive ghost, like projection of a green dragon, pops up right behind the soldier, demanding to be raised by him. Showing zero fear, Li Jian just turns his head and stares down the massive creature. The spirit reptile tries to hold an intimidating pose by giving him a super deep stare. The little egg just sits untouched on the dirt, acting as the real hardware running this whole ghost projection. Having absolutely zero patience, the sergeant pulls his piece and smacks the majestic beast right in the snout with the grip. Holding the weapon ready to fire, he makes it crystal clear he isn't there to put up with goofy pranks. Trying to hide its rage, the dragon forces a laugh and calls the human race totally clueless. Dripping with ego, it claims that this epic form is the result of countless respawns as the sovereign of the forest. Shutting down the flex instantly, the soldier points out that to anyone watching, it just looks like a cheap parlor trick popping out of an egg. The brutal clap back leaves the beast stunned, completely ruining its untouchable god tier aesthetic. Stuttering a bit, the reptile tries to do damage control, hyping up the shooter's guts and street smarts. Not caring about the compliments, the sergeant points his piece aggressively and straight up asks where he got teleported to. Li Jian asks totally deadpan if he accidentally checked out during the explosion. With a toxic tone, the mythical creature confirms that's a pretty solid way to describe what went down. Stressed about his squad, the soldier immediately demands to know what happened to his men and the kid. Treating the question like a joke, the Emerald Lord says he gave him an epic second chance and that he should drop the NPC talk. At that, the sergeant presses his weapon way harder against the egg, showing his patience has officially hit zero. Sweating buckets, the dragon drops the attitude and panics, admitting it honestly has no clue what happened to them either. Watching the human's totally blank face, the beast realizes it just partied up with a super difficult teammate. Deep down, it totally regrets that the soldier didn't get spooked by its aura and just hijacked the whole conversation. Noticing the disconnect, the platoon boss chills for a second, asks if it wasn't the creature who fast traveled him there. Taking the L, the entity confesses that the energy that caused the server hop didn't actually come from him. It explains that right when it was crashing, it got sucked up by the spatial power of its golden rival. Because of that, it was just lagging out in the deep void of the afterlife dimension, with zero sense of direction, right when its consciousness was about to be permanently deleted into absolute nothingness. A weird, angelic voice echoed in its head, followed by the most bizarre system notification pop-up. The prompt told him to pick a breeder, which made the mythical beast completely salty about the terminology. Raging, the Green Lord complains that he needed a legit warrior for this totally embarrassing quest. Someone actually cracked enough to farm exp with him and help restore his forgotten hype. To pull that off, the Chosen One needed the cold, big brain strats of a Blue Lord. Plus, they needed to carry that unhinged, wild energy that only the Red Dragon faction really gets. Flashing back to Guy's goofy pet shop days, the monster just sighs and accepts it. Despite being let down, it admits that maybe its pick wasn't a total throw after all. Cutting off the yapping, the soldier asks about this supposed divine voice and the system interface. Right on a floating UI screen pops up in mid-air, welcoming the newbie user. The pop-up tells the human to min-max the tools in this new universe to get the best results. Totally shook, the dragon stutters, confirming that the prompt is literally the voice of the ultimate admin of all realities. While reading the stats popping up in front of him, the sergeant keeps his cool, analytical vibe. Beast guesses that since the Golden Crasher broke the meta, the Supreme Admin decided to step in and patch things directly. A brand new ping grabs both of their attention, prompting them to select a companion faction. The options show the freedom-loving humans, the builder dwarves, and the high-tier wood elves. Triggered by sudden rage, the reptile rejects the high tiers and demands the long ears get deleted from his screen. Raging hard, the dragon declares the green faction will grind forever and that orcs are the ultimate frontline tanks. Barely following along, Li Jian checks the UI panel and mentally questions this incredibly weird choice. A second later, the floating screen officially confirms the orcs were locked in for the quest. The massive beast just stands there stunned right next to the sergeant, who also makes a confused noise at the notification. Because of this, the system drops some lore, explaining that picking an uncivilized faction means the leftover budget will convert into leadership stat points. A glowing magic aura wraps around the MC just as the prompts announce that the Dragon Breeder title is now active and the fast travel has started. Seeing his own hands glow like crazy, he gets super lost in all these new terms and demands to know what the heck is going on. Behind him, the massive ghost of the forest boss looks up and starts glowing with a super intense green light. Totally hyped, the beast announces that the Golden Era is about to get cancelled to make room for his faction's epic reboot. While the sergeant tries to keep his balance in the blinding flash, the supreme admin voice tells the out-of-town hero to go check that rival's ego. Keeping up the majestic flex, the reptile demands the human respawn him and help build an absolutely broken army. But before the creature can even finish its dramatic monologue about destiny, Li Jian calmly racks his weapon. Having zero time for a cutscene, the soldier fires a round right into the center of the ghost projection. Thanks to the sudden kickback, the tiny green egg gets tossed up into the air in the middle of the crazy bright light. Soon enough, a massive pillar of energy shoots up, officially starting the loading screen to the new universe. Getting sucked into the weird glow, the sergeant catches the egg mid-air and repeats that his only goal is to chill and take care of small pets. Free falling through dimensional space, the guy thinks super bitterly that this was his one and only genuine wish. In his head, he's super salty that the hidden admin didn't give a single crap about what he actually asked for. Totally let down, the MC realizes he got dropped into the wrong server to babysit, something he never even wanted. Sinking into a super flooded area, he feels dizzy and wonders if this is the afterlife, right as the system drops a notification about absorbing his gear. While his military kit literally peels off him, the soldier feels like he's drowning at the bottom of a creepy ocean. Right then, a ping announces that a level 3 slime was tamed and is now evolving because it snacked on items from another dimension. Watching his glove just float away in the water, he notices a weird, warm feeling wrapping around his sinking body. The system quickly confirms that the monster's power, leveling to the 20th level, went perfectly after it swallowed literally everything, including the sergeant's piece. Still in free fall, the pop-ups mention that the swallowed gun triggered a never-before-seen mutation in the little guy. Freaking out over the sudden lack of oxygen, the dude starts panicking and choking right in the middle of that endless water level. Suddenly, the camera cuts to a dark forest, where the MC finally faceplants into the dirt, coughing up a lung. Desperate to catch his breath, he leans against the brush and spots a tiny sticky blob chilling right next to him. The sergeant's eyes go wide, and purely on autopilot, he calls the creature by the name of an old pet from back in the day. But the little beast's response is to straight up smack the soldier in the face, knocking him out cold on the ground instantly. Rubbing the mud off his face, the human gets seriously spooked when he realizes his body got a massive rework. He notices his ears got pointy, and his physical build feels way different from how he looked before the explosive dropped. Getting up super slowly, the MC checks out his new buff elf skin under the moonlight, trying to process this totally broken glitch. Sweating cold from the stress of it all, he asks out loud what the heck just happened to his own character model. Getting zero answers, the soldier locks onto the little creature on the ground and yells that familiar nickname again. Using the monster's shock to his advantage, he leaps forward fast, trying to grab the slime ball with his bare hands. But the slippery little guy dodges effortlessly, making Li Jian realize with dread that his entire military loadout is gone from his belt. Looking to the side, he spots the tiny beast casually munching on one of his heavy-duty tactical gloves. In just a few seconds, the creature completely deletes the fabric like it was absolutely nothing. Totally shook by the weirdness, the sergeant figures out the animal ate all his gear and realizes it's super sketchy to stay in this spot. Playing it safe, the elf starts backing away slowly while the creature is busy finishing up its snack. Determined to dip from that zone as fast as possible, he accidentally kicks a round object sitting in the dirt. Dropping down super fast, the MC realizes it's that weird Dragon Lord egg he was holding and picks it up. The quick move catches the eye of the little jelly guy, who stares at the soldier, totally curious about the loot in his hands. Without overthinking it, Li Jian books it through the spooky woods at max speed, with the hungry creature tailing him right behind. Sprinting in pure panic through the trees, the MC tries his best to keep a safe distance from the starving monster on his six. Suddenly, a metallic glint flashes super low, key from behind the thick, dark bushes of the forest. An arrow tears through the wind super fast, buzzing right past the soldier's face and giving him a massive jump scare mid-sprint. With nowhere to run, he slides into the dirt and begs for a timeout when he realizes he's surrounded by tiny, weapon-wielding goblins stepping out of the shadows. Ignoring his plea, one of the little beasts jumps aggressively right at him, holding a sharp blade ready to do some damage. With no tactical armor left, the sergeant just grits his teeth and throws his arms up to tank the hit. Right at that exact second of danger, the little slime ball jumps in front of him, spinning in the air like an absolute clutch shield. The creature stretches out super fast, wrapping over the human's chest and morphing into a shiny tactical vest. With the defense buff popping at the perfect time, the enemy attacks just bounce right off without dealing any HP damage. The goblin lands a direct hit on his chest, but the little knife can't even scratch the slime's heavy-duty armor. Taking advantage of the Crasher's confusion, the MC figures out how the ability works and gets ready to clap back. A special skill activates right away, morphing a chunk of the creature on his arm into the exact shape of a blaster. Gripping the instant energy piece, the commander's eyes go completely ice cold, tactical, and 100% locked in. The barrel points straight at the attacking goblin's face, making the guy totally bug out when he sees the threat. Without hesitating for even a frame, Li Jian fires the glowing shot at point-blank range, yeeting the enemy into the air super fast. Terrified by the ridiculously OP weapon showcase, the rest of the goblins nope out of there, sprinting away into the thick woods. The story cuts away from the action and focuses on the bright inside of a chill bar, full of people chatting and sipping drinks with zero stress. Outside, in the dead of night, a glowing arrow shoots across the dark zone like a super-fast shooting star. The metal tip slices the breeze dangerously, tracing a perfect flight path straight to a hidden spot. Following the drop zone, an elite fighter lands super gracefully in the middle of a clearing, away from all the noise. Rocking a hood and playing it safe, she checks her 6, making sure the area is secure and leaves no tracks. Lit up by the full moon, the elf in white gear shows herself fully, keeping a super alert and threatening vibe out in the wild. Time skips until daylight hits the entrance of a hidden cave in the rocks, where high-pitched noises start echoing out. Tied up tight by their ankles, 2 of the night ambushers are hanging upside down, crying their eyes out. The camera pans out to show they aren't alone. There are other disarmed captives tossed around the cave floor. Staring down the prisoners with a hardcore boss face, the MC orders everyone to shut up and cut the noise. Keeping that strict military energy, the sergeant warns that chatting is banned and asks who gave them permission to even open their mouths. Hearing the guy's totally freezing voice, the little beasts start sweating buckets and shaking in their ropes. Right after, the commander chills out on the dirt, sitting right in front of his recovered loot, the dragon egg, and the weird little pet. Chilling in a patch of sunlight on the floor, the jelly creature just stares at the human looking totally innocent. Running back the tape in his head, the sergeant tries to process everything that just went down. But his focus is instantly broken when the sticky little guy randomly launches itself through the air. The creature face plants right onto the soldier, catching the dude totally off guard. Thanks to the sudden impact, the MC loses his balance and gets knocked backward. In that split second, he turns in a panic just in time to see a goblin trying to rush him with a knife. Wasting zero time, the slime spreads over the guy's arm, changing its whole layout. A special skill pops off, turning the little beast into a perfect replica of a metal piece. On the wrong end of the barrel, the little enemy freaks out when he realizes he's in the crosshairs. Keeping his usual ice-cold vibe, Li Jian tracks the target flawlessly. With the weapon cocked and ready, the quick action move gets triggered by the system. A blast of glowing energy shoots out of the makeshift piece with crazy recoil. The hit tags the attacker straight on, knocking him backward while he screams in pain. Pressing the advantage, the squad leader keeps blasting at the hostile. Hiding in the zone, the other goblins watch the whole thing, absolutely terrified by the raw damage output. Showing zero mercy, the dude lands another perfect shot that tears right through the shadows of the woods. The dizzy little monster stumbles after tanking the direct energy blast. Right after, he gets launched super high into the sky thanks to the insane knockback. Seeing the result, the sergeant lowers his aim, realizing the threat is totally wiped. Super exhausted, the soldier takes a massive breath, trying to catch his wind after that intense skirmish. Just then, the weapon dissolves, going back to its original jelly form. Chilling peacefully, Li Jian starts logging data into a journal while the pet relaxes right next to him. He jots down that the little creature actually acts super friendly toward him. The notes specify that his new sidekick kit can morph into whatever it eats until its stamina bar hits 0. But the damage output is basically like rubber bullets. It knocks them out but doesn't finish them, totally different from real guns. Looking over at the tied-up hostages groaning, he guesses the makeshift piece only has enough juice for 4 or 5 shots. Wanting to figure out the meta, the MC calls up the system's virtual assistant. He asks what server he's on and what the tutorial steps are, but just gets error messages back. Trying a different strat, he orders the device to make a normal phone call. The lame reply confirms that all standard smartphone apps are offline too. Suddenly, his attention shifts when the jelly creature bumps against the massive green egg. Looking closely at the weird item, the human analyzes the whole setup with a big brain strategy. In his head, he hears the beast's toxic voice repeating that he was the chosen MVP, meant to build a massive army. Holding the egg, the soldier connects the dots and realizes he got kidnapped by the creature to basically work as a hired gun. Deciding to make a move, he spins around to the tied up hostages and demands their attention. With a scary vibe, he asks if these guys are some kind of alien NPCs in this dimension. Getting zero helpful answers, the sergeant quickly realizes these little dudes literally don't speak his language. Losing his patience, he grabs one of the guys and aggressively demands a reply that actually makes sense. Dropping the hostage, the elf figures out that trying to chat with these locals is basically impossible. Staring at the green orb again, he realizes hatching this beast is the only way to unlock the lore drops. But to pull that off, his logical brain knows the priority has to be making sure he doesn't get unalived first. Locking in survival as objective number 1, his short-term goal is to secure a safe house to operate from. Walking over to the cave entrance with the prisoners in tow, he plans to scout the area and check for aggro. Outside, a local is slamming 2 rocks together super hard, making a ton of noise in the woods. The sound shows that the creatures are mining the dirt nearby with some totally basic tools. The grind from far away, the soldier figures that squad is the biggest red flag right now. The constant clanking proves those locals are the main roadblock, standing in his way. Spotting the food they left on the ground, he realizes these crashers wandered off from their main guild. Figuring out it's just a random scouting party, the human calls his little pet over. Catching the ping, the slime jumps into his hand and shifts into a piece again. Gripping the weapon, he guesses he doesn't have much time before the enemy backup pulls up to the spot. Strolling up to the prisoners like a total boss, the squad leader decides to switch up his strat. Using the barrel, he draws some lines in the dirt and points, trying to introduce himself. Tapping his own chest, the sergeant makes his identity super obvious. Right after, he points back at the doodle to keep the hostages' eyes locked in. Pointing a finger straight at the scared monsters, he signals that the next part is all about them. Showing a sketch of a camp, the soldier tries to ask about the rest of their squad. Gesturing to the whole zone, he clearly asks where their crew is hiding out. Even though they're confused at first, the locals start wiggling and nodding, trying to answer the prompt. Super hyped, they stretch their hands out, pointing to a very specific spot on the map. One of them yells way louder, swearing the base is exactly in that direction. Just to vibe check them, the sergeant presses the barrel against one of the creature's heads. Keeping his cold persona, he grabs the prisoner's attention with a seriously terrifying voice. With a rock-solid face, the soldier warns them that the ban hammer for lying will be brutal. Pointing at a sketch of some wiped-out stick figures, he makes it crystal clear what happens if they try to troll him. Pointing at the open ditches nearby, he lets them know that's their final resting place if they cap. Sweating nervously, the little guys frantically confirm the right way, pointing toward the zone past the mountain. Checking out the map, the MC realizes the enemy safe house is way farther than he originally guessed. Happy with the intel, he tosses some scraps of meat to the tide, up little beasts. Hiding in the bushes, a mysterious silhouette with yellow eyes quietly spectates the whole thing. The guy explains the snack is a reward for the assist, even if it's literally their own food. Starving, the locals scarf down the meat super fast, just grateful to get any kind of HP restore. Suddenly, the hostages' eyes bug out in shock when they feel a totally unknown buff activating. Their tiny bodies start glowing super bright, leaving Legion completely clueless about the random event. On the cave floor, the discarded device next to the egg also starts flashing hard. A system prompt pops up on the screen, saying that feeding the locals triggered an automatic mutation in them. Right in front of the guy, the panel confirms the Goblin faction members have been perfectly tamed post-mutation. A second later, a new ping says he just downloaded the monster's language pack, leaving the sergeant absolutely shook. Way out in the distance, the sniper elf senses a terrifying magic aura and quickly backs off. Most spooked, the fighter grabs her own shoulder while trying to figure out where such a massive power level is coming from. Because of this, she instantly starts a comms ritual to report the glitch to her faction's elders. A bunch of glowing ghosts pop up around her, ordering the warrior to drop the citra. Keeping a respectful vibe, the scout says she's posted on the edge of the dark forest, right by the human village. Then, sounding super nervous, she spills that she just spotted an orc roaming around the zone. The camera cuts right back to the platoon leader, who's just standing there frozen, staring at his new tiny followers. The warrior keeps her report going, saying the monster is spamming the Green Master's most OP mind control magic. The Council of Old Dudes goes completely silent after hearing such a heavy drop. Refusing to back down, the hooded girl swears that everything she just said is 100% facts. Right then, one of the astral bosses drops Celia's full name, cutting through the awkward tension. The veteran asks how old the warrior is, bringing up that she's the elf who got nerfed and can't shoot arrows anymore. Thrown off by the random question, the girl says she's 150 years old. Hearing the reply, the boomer lets out a heavy sigh, showing he's super disappointed. He complains that back in the day, the younger generation wasn't this toxic and rebellious. The scout just freezes, totally lost as to why she's suddenly getting flamed. Right then, the hologram of the main commander, named Callion, steps up in the glowing circle. The totally intimidating elf boss looks down at the girl with absolute strictness. With a harsh voice, he asks if the admins aren't moderating their soldiers properly anymore. Callion asks if there's any logic at all in an orc managing to spam a dragon's skill set. Mad salty about the whole thing, the old man promises to personally ban this insubordination. Sighing again, the commander calls the girl's name, trying to just end the call. He says he gets why she's so thirsty to get payback on the Green Lord over her lost arm. But the boss makes it crystal clear that the mythical monster was fully deleted, with 0 files left behind. Callion repeats that the Golden Leader himself stepped up to permanently wipe out his old rival. Panicking, the archer tries to argue, swearing she's not just trolling them with fake news. Turning his back, the old man roasts her for bringing such a totally baseless rumor straight to the top tier. Not letting her explain, he just ends the meeting and rudely kicks the warrior out of the lobby. Taking the L, Cilia follows the order and respectfully logs off. The magic link vanishes, leaving the elf totally alone again out in the woods. Swallowed by saltiness, the girl punches the wet dirt and curses out those stubborn boomers. Boiling with rage over the disrespect, the warrior is absolutely certain she scanned the green dragon's energy in the zone. She's super upset that her intel got completely ignored just because she can't use her bow build anymore. Eaten up by holding a grudge, the fighter swears she'll track down the boss that ruined her stats and get her revenge. The scene shifts to the deep jungle, where a freaky lizard is brutally snacking on a bird. Watching from a distance, the soldier and the locals see the beast get completely swallowed by a giant bug. One of the little guys casually mentions that the runner-type mob actually tastes amazing. Right after, a massive crab comes stumping heavily across the dirt. The tiny goblin immediately warns that the crawler-type mob tastes like absolute garbage. A giant spiky beast pops out in the open, roaring super loud. The monster instantly gets ambushed by a weird bird, making the local explain that's the super scary, high-tier meat. While walking, the little dudes explain their initiation quest required them to farm drops from those beasts, but they totally failed the run. Reviewing the lore drop, Li Jian realizes the goblins got banned from their own guild because of that botched quest. Even though they got kicked, the locals celebrate that they luckily ran into the epic Master of Green. Whatever. Vibe, the surgeon instantly clarifies he isn't anyone's boss. But the little guys refuse to drop it, swearing he belongs to their exact same faction. Trying to prove it, the creatures stick out their arms and show off their skin color to the soldier. Weirded out by the sudden buddy-butt act, the elf pulls his green hand away before they can fist bump. Super hype, the little monsters claim they're all kids of the jungle and don't gatekeep over minor details. Night drops over the zone, bringing a blazing campfire to light up their makeshift spawn point. The commander chills near the fire while his new squad sleeps totally peacefully around it. Sitting alone, the MC thinks back on the colossal boss-level mobs he saw walking around during the day. He also remembers the armored beasts, realizing the spawn rate for threats in this zone is literally endless. Holding his busted phone, the guy stares at the dead screen with a totally blank look. In his head, the dude admits his past self would be totally obsessed with researching these ignored creatures. Next to him, the jelly ball is fast asleep, literally spread across one of the locals' faces. The sergeant watches the chill moment with a face full of heavy sadness. Closing his eyes for a sec, he lets out the sad laugh of a guy carrying a massive weight of trauma. The fire keeps crackling softly in the dead quiet of the early aims. Staring into the flames triggers some terrible flashbacks of unstoppable fires in the soldier's head. In his memories, he sees himself kneeling right in the middle of a totally ruined, burning city map. Right by his boots, a phone with a cracked screen keeps ringing on top of the rubble. The guy's face in the flashback shows pure horror and panic looking at the wiped-out zone. In the middle of the fire, the shadow of a giant elephant is taking burn damage, which is the whole reason he's freaking out. Reliving the nightmare, the MC remembers the desperate scream he let out while everything turned to ash around him. Snapping back to the present, the sound of a branch snapping nearby totally ruins the forest's chill vibe. Instantly, the soldier's eyes snap wide open, dropping all his AFK status. The sticky little guy wakes up instantly, jumping straight toward its partner. With a slick move, Li Jian points his makeshift piece at the dark, demanding to know who's lagging around out there. NPCs wearing traveler gear totally freeze up, panicking at the sudden aggro. The two explorers stare at the campfire and the squad looking visibly shook. Scanning their human faces, the elf lowers his piece a bit when he recognizes their faction. But the outsiders totally bug out anyway, pulling their blades and screaming stuff that makes zero sense. Surprised by the sudden hostility, the sergeant raises his slime piece and tells the duo to just chill for a sec. But one of the tiny locals jumps right in front of him, getting into a battle stance against the crashers. Determined to tank for his boss, the creature rushes forward mad while the humans scream in panic, begging him to stop. Right then, the faint sound of a boot drops from the dark canopy of the forest. The elf fighter who was sniping the area finally reveals herself, dropping from the shadows with total aggro. Slicing through the night breeze at top speed, she dives straight for the chaotic squad. 100% locked into the PvP, the warrior charges up an attack as she closes in on the soldier and his ally. Flexing some insane movement tech, she spins mid-air and drops a heavy kick. The hit connects dead center on the little goblin's face, completely breaking his guard. The knockback is so crazy it yeets the little creature backward, sending his knife flying into the air. Caught off guard by the sweaty play, Li Jian watches his new buddy get tossed brutally. Hiding nearby, the duo of adventurers just stand frozen, watching the new fighter enter the lobby. Sticking the landing, the elf fixes her weapon and trash, talks the green dragon's leftover boss, telling him to memorize the gamer tag of the one about to unalive him. Walking slowly under the moonlight, she calls herself the Shining Hunter of the Ultimate Law. With an absolute try-hard glare, the fighter states her name is Cilia Tuscarilla. Praising the golden light, the crasher promises to cancel the guy she calls an orc mage and his filthy minions. Keeping her blade locked on the targets, the elf makes it obvious she's here to wipe the squad. Cilia repeats her shiny title with total confidence, proving she isn't just here to mess around. Holding his banged-up teammate, the soldier just listens to the toxic trash talk being thrown in their faces. Totally locked in, the elf promises she'll zero out all of them right on the spot. The guy just stares, barely registering anything the raging girl is even saying. Behind the leader, the little locals start screaming in their own chat to defend the base. Trying to de-escalate, Li Jian puts his hands up to show he's not looking for PvP, while the humans in the back scream in panic. The explorers yell that the dude must be a high-threat monster since he's talking in the beast chat. Cilia tells the humans to fall back, totally misreading the situation and assuming the boss is about to cast an Owlmind control spell. Surrounded by his screaming squad and totally fake accusations, the group leader thinks this whole server is getting way too toxic. To stop the griefing from getting worse, he decides to fire a warning shot in the air to scare them off. Moving fast, the military guy raises his piece and pulls the trigger. But right when he tries to shoot, he realizes immediately that his loadout is completely bugged. His piece literally falls apart in a second, showing the crying face of the slime that completely ran out of ammo. Totally out of stamina, the little pet drops from the soldier's hand, leaving useless casings in the dirt. Spotting the opening, the warrior locks her sights on the enemy and declares his magic gets cancelled here. Wasting 0 frames, the girl dashes at high speed, closing the gap between them. With a fatal combo, she launches a glowing, straight lunge with her sword. But the attack ends up tagging the chest of one of the goblins, who jumped heroically in the way to tank the hit for his boss. Hiding in the brush, the explorers watch the brutal PvP, looking completely terrified. Taking critical damage, the tiny body of the local drops into the messy dirt. Coughing non-stop, the little guy suffers from the massive debuff of the blade. The commander goes into shock seeing his new teammate get dropped so fast. Even the attacker's eyes bug out, a little spooked that she just shotted the little monster. Using the close range, the furious human grabs the sharp knife with his bare hands, completely ignoring the damage output. The weapon brutally, he pulls the distracted girl in super close. Right after, the elf lands a massive punch directly into the crasher's stomach. The sheer force destroys the elf's balance, knocking the wind out of her from the heavy counter-attack. Boiling with rage, the sergeant points his empty piece right at her face at point-blank range. Flexing her race's massive agility stats, the warrior yanks her blade back and backsteps to create some space. She slides through the wet grass, managing to fix her posture after eating that punch. Panting hard, the girl asks with absolute disgust how he had the nerve to pull a move like that. Consumed by rage, she screams that a low-tier nobody never had the right to touch her and promises to go all out. Charging up her ultimate, the fighter starts pulling wind energy straight into her character model. The girl channels her power to wipe out the opponent, while the human steps back, looking visibly out of stamina. Red stuff drips non-stop from the military guy's hand thanks to the heavy slash damage from the sword. Dropping to his knees next to his downed teammate, Li Jian tries to catch his breath with the threat right in front of him. Salty about the nerfs, he curses the whole game when he sees the size of the gash on his palm. His hand shakes uncontrollably near the dropped piece, totally refusing to listen to basic controller inputs. Seeing his boss leaking HP, the local panics and begs him to log out and run away as fast as possible. In a totally bold move, the injured monster stumbles up to try and CC the enemy for just a few seconds. Without a single doubt, the warrior drops a fast and brutal slash right at the little guy. The blade drops the goblin back into the dirt, permanently kicking the poor dude out of the match. Buffed by wind magic, Cilia dashes like lightning, completely sweeping the battlefield. Despite the debuff, the soldier manages to scoop the piece off the floor using his good hand. With Oka's tactical stare, he lines up his shot, basically knowing this is his absolute last chance. The enemy moves in a completely chaotic pattern, zigzagging across the ground to break his aim assist. Keeping the cold, calculated vibe of a veteran, he waits patiently for the perfect frame. The human adjusts his grip on the slime piece, steadying his arm for the trick shot. Closing the gap, the fighter throws a straight, lightning, fast attack aiming for his neck. The strike hits nothing but air, making the girl totally miss the hitbox and fly right past the guy into the woods. Down on the ground, one of the locals watches the fast end to the match with total respect. The goblin throws his hands up, totally amazed by the crazy plot twist he just watched. The elf's golden crown, clipped off by a grazing shot at the very last second, drops perfectly into the little guy's hands. Parked further ahead, the crasher touches her head, completely shook when she realizes her premium item is gone. Spooked by the opponent's aimbot, the girl instantly turns around and books it, despawning into the woods. Keeping his piece raised, the MC breathes heavy, just hoping his strat actually worked. Completely drained, the weapon totally dissolves and reverts back to being a harmless little yellow jelly. Feeling the weight of the zero stamina and the damage, the sergeant collapses to his knees in the dirt while his buddy tries to help him. The little goblin panics seeing his friend downed, mashing the pieces of the jelly creature back together with his hands while screaming his name in pure desperation. Holding the scattered bits of the blob, the local cries over the sad sight of his friend, taken out in the middle of the zone. Totally stunned, the military guy looks at the slime pieces stuck to his own hand and realizes the heavy carry his pet just did to save his run. This awful scene triggers some brutal flashbacks from his military days, when he had to hold a critically injured squad mate in his arms mid-firefight. The trauma of the lobby screen hits hard again, dragging up the unbearable pain of failing to save the guy who grinded right next to him in the ruin zone. Right then, the system auto triggers a ping noting that the sergeant's old debuff was reactivated because this moment felt way too similar. A hidden skill pops instantly, making the hero let out a monster roar while a red aura of pure rage wraps his entire character model. Taken over by hate, the platoon commander's face shifts into a ruthless beast, super thirsty for payback against the enemy. Hiding nearby, the explorers duck behind the bushes, shaking in fear from that super oppressive and edgy aura. Wasting 0 frames, the unhinged fighter dashes like lightning through the dark woods, ditching the base to hunt down the person who started all this. His heavy footsteps literally wreck the ground, proving he has 0 plans to drop the aggro on this wild chase. Stopping dead right in front of the enemy, the sergeant's massive silhouette flexes an overpowering pressure that totally dominates the area. Tossed on the ground after a failed escape, the elf looks up only to go face to face with the massive boss-level threat standing over her. Driven entirely by violent autopilot, the MC reaches his hand out brutally toward the girl, planning to permanently log her out. But right when he's about to finish the combo, the chill visual of his little pet echoes deep inside his glitched out brain. The shock of that wholesome memory makes the warrior stop his hand literally millimeters from the girl's face, canceling the attack super hard and fast. Blinking confused at the scene, the aggro starts fading from Legion's face as he turns away, trying to process the random mood swing. Looking back, the human notices a soft yellow glow popping up from the grass where the little guy was healing the remains of his injured buddy. To his absolute shock, the tiny jelly ball is totally put together and bouncing, staring innocently like it didn't even take a single hit point of damage in the fight. The vibe totally chills out when the rest of the monster's pieces start moving on their own, building their own models on the wet dirt. Forgotten in the dark, his phone drops a glowing ping, warning that a fatal hit was blocked thanks to one of the pet's hidden passives. On the cracked screen, the video of the mystery guy loops, wishing the soldier finds something he loves and spends his playthrough on it without regretting a thing. Taking advantage of this weird dupe glitch, one of the new little monsters takes on a round, speaky shape, getting its own nickname on the spot. A third one with cute little horns also pops up glowing, proving the original pet's cellular split skill actually works. Way more chill after the clutch save, the soldier relaxes his posture when he sees the enemy's attack literally just spawned weird new teammates for the squad. Carrying the sticky little dudes, the leader switches back to his cold, big brain persona while the goblins hype up the W. Even though the raid is over, the hero's face shows he has 0 stamina left thanks to the stress overload and the fresh damage. On the flip side, the scout is still knocked out on the freezing dirt, trying to reboot her system after getting that close to the game. Over screen from the raging enemy. The girl's mind drops into a totally confusing loading screen, finding herself totally alone inside an endless, blank white mental room. Completely disoriented from the quick KO, the girl mutters to herself, asking what server she just dropped into and what's happening to her AFK body. The panic hits her instantly when she remembers the exact frame that cold-blooded Crasher caught her sword bare, handed without even flinching. Bugging her eyes out in fear, Celia realizes she totally missed a crucial detail during the sweaty combo exchange at the base. Jumping up automatically, the warrior stands locked in the middle of nowhere, declaring she has to ping the team about this massive incoming threat. Touching her head to activate the magic voice chat, she repeats that the council boomers need to be warned ASAP about this weird shaman's moves. But her fingers just hit her own skin, sending panic right down her spine when she realizes her premium item is totally gone without a trace. Freaking out over the reality check, the elf confirms she dropped her sacred loot during the fight. The exact item she needed to connect to the elders. Going into shock, the girl drops to her knees, realizing her guild invite was just violently revoked out of nowhere. Curled up in that empty, muted zone, the warrior thinks that for the first time in her 150 years of playing, she is completely and tragically solo. Suddenly, the fake chill of her mind shatters like cheap glass, totally unable to tank the massive debuff to her mental health. Her firewall completely drops, yeeting the girl into a dark pit while she falls, screaming to the server about how hard she's panicking. Free, falling through the ignored shadows, the elf begs for a carry and calls for the ancient buff of the great tree that's supposed to light her people's path. Pressing the damage on her arm hard, she pleads with her village boss, begging with a totally broken heart not to get kicked and left behind again. But the only reply popping out of the void is the massive mouth of a green dragon, rushing in at top speed to swallow her whole in the dark. Waking up in a panic from the nightmare, Celia automatically grabs onto the first person she sees in the real world, crying and shaking, just looking for a safe zone. To her total shock, the guy holding her steady is a human dude with a super chill and welcoming face, a complete 180 from the aggro monster before. With a focused and really calm look, the mystery hero gently tells the hostage to drop the panic and just chill out. Still super dizzy from the bad dream, the girl stares at the stranger's nice face while finally getting the prompt that she's in a safe zone. Propping the injured fighter comfortably against a tree, the guy hands over a small bowl and promises the potion will clear her lag. Grabbing the warm bowl with both hands, the girl feels her cheeks turn red from shyness when she catches the familiar vibe of that raspy voice and constant care. Bringing the sketchy bowl to her mouth, she agrees to chug the mix without questioning the guy who apparently played support for her all night. Drinking the potion, the girl is amazed to actually feel someone else's empathy after so long, while the system quietly starts running a background script to control her. Super charmed by the sweet visual, she shyly asks if this nice dude might be one of the mythological angels, but the illusion instantly shatters to reveal the harsh, masked commander. The nice dream glitches out, showing the soldier's orange skin as he aggressively shoves the mix at her, warning that her attitude will decide if he plays the angel or the final boss. Keeping his strict, ice-cold persona, the leader sarcastically asks if the Crasher is done throwing a tantrum and has finally rebooted after embarrassing herself. Pointing at the little monsters sweating from fear behind her, he notes that the Gross potion crafted by the goblins actually has a totally OP and fast effect. Realizing how sketchy the mix looks and smelling the weird odor from the soup she just chugged, the girl's eyes bug out, totally disgusted by the scene. Taken over by a gross reflex, Celia spits all the swallowed jelly right into the enemy's face without even thinking about the aggro it would pull. A creepy silence drops over the isolated hideout at the exact moment the morning sun lights up the epic, deadly view of the wild mountains. Tied up tight inside a heavy sleeping bag, the girl starts thrashing like crazy on the dirt, demanding to be unbanned immediately. Tossed on the filthy ground, the salty hostage kicks her furiously and screams that she'll zero out all those bold mobs who had the nerve to touch her. Wiping the gross potion off his face, the human groans about the annoying spam and coldly states that absolute obedience is her only option to not get logged out. Consumed by saltiness over the warning, the elf tries to tell the enemy to shut his mouth, but gets instantly muted by an invisible gag that cuts off her audio. Her lips lock up against her will, causing the girl to absolutely panic when she realizes she's under some weird mind-controlled debuff that froze her character model. The chill vibe returns to the zone in seconds, leaving the squad leader clearly stunned by how fast his stubborn prisoner got muted. Hyped by the quick fix, the little goblins celebrate hard and praise the boss for shutting up the stuck-up fighter using that phantom admin power. Completely lost, the sergeant raises an eyebrow, doubting the whole thing, and quietly asks where the beasts pulled this crazy brainwashing theory from. Trying to understand the hidden mechanics of this weird server, the soldier pulls his useless device from his pocket to check the random magic system pop-ups. On the lit screen, he flashes back to the exact frame the little healer handed him that sketchy bowl, promising the potion had God, tier, safe buffs. Dotting the stats, the human decided to use the knocked out enemy to beta test it, hoping she'd wake up fast so the interrogation could actually start properly. The magic logs confirm that forcing the warrior to chug the mix instantly triggered a forced taming ritual, which clearly threw an error on the first try. When she cuffed, the natural firewall from the girl's massive ego blocked the magic, forcing the spell to install a physical lock that doesn't actually overwrite her free will. Even though it totally disrespects the muted girl's internal wishes on the floor, the physical lock gifted the human the bonus perk of learning those weird creatures' language pack. Scratching his chin with a big brain look, the MC connects these taming mechanics with the basic training methods he used in his chill past life. He figures out the rules run pretty much exactly like the pet training he did back when he worked at the shop. Looking sarcastically at the locked-down girl and his cowering minions, the military guy realizes he accidentally became the ultimate guild master of this squad of rejects. Keeping up his boss aesthetic, Lee Jian drops a direct command for the captive to sit on the camp floor. Right after, he orders the girl to stand up, testing out the magic admin controls he has over her animations. Showing zero emotion, the human repeats the prompt for the girl to go back to sitting on the dirty ground. Bowling rage over being treated like an NPC, the fighter tries to spam the chat with her locked mouth until the military guy finally unmutes her. Completely salty, Celia screams that she'd rather the game over screen than suffer this embarrassment, taking orders from an orc mage, and swears revenge. With just one word, the human commands the elf to shut her mouth, muting her instantly through the system's override. Watching the prisoner flop around on the dirt like a glitched fish, the MC concludes he definitely managed to CC the girl. Because of this, he remembers the totally surreal cutscene where he got pulled into this dimension and wonders if he downloaded this buff during the drop. The veteran also thinks about how he ended up blacking out in the middle of the chaos and notices his old HP damage just vanished. He has some laggy memories of being taken over by totally beast like aggro and rage during the last PvP match. The heavy load of his war PTSD keeps haunting the boss's mind, proving the combat trauma is still active in his files. Pushing the dark thoughts away for a sec, he cracks a tiny, sarcastic smile while reviewing the current meta he's stuck in. But the zero stamina hits hard, making the military guy put a hand to his forehead and sigh heavily, blaming his stress on all the server lag. The chilling next to the new jelly pets. The MC admits to himself he'd be capping if he said he actually understood what was going on. Staring at the dead screen of his device, he figures battles always drop random plot twists, but his main quest hasn't changed. Looking at an old screenshot of his squad on the phone, the human repeats that he needs to keep his HP up because he has unfinished business in his home server. Locked in and refusing to quit, the leader declares that surviving is literally the only objective that matters right now. Going full try-hard military boss mode, he yells, ordering his little units to line up in formation. Standing in front of the tiny beasts, he warns them he doesn't fully trust their party invite yet, but he's down to give them one chance to show their stats. With the strictness of a trained pro, the leader explains that in his reality, only heavy DPS and sheer grind kept the squad from wiping. Aiming to fix their current low tier status, the military guy promises to run them through his server's hardcore tutorial so they can level up. Doing floor drills right next to them, the guy demands that in exchange, everyone pulls their weight to keep his run going and guarantee his fast travel back home. Jog through the bushes, setting the pace for the drill. The human warns that anyone who rage quits loses the right to call him boss. Forcing the little creatures to squat perfectly in sync, he demands they prove if they're just basic meat shields or actually top-tier units. During the massive free for all spar, the human checks the locals' stats to decide if they're worthy of being his main party members. Watching the scene from the floor, the warrior is totally shook seeing the little monsters moving in a perfect, sweaty military formation. Still tied up and on her knees, Celia admits to herself she made a massive misplay, and those beasts aren't just random trash mobs. The hooded girl watches in awe as the little yellow creature, quick, swaps its shape to buff the commander. She also notices how the goblins pull off calculated strats and handle their weapons with totally broken recoil control. In the middle of the chaos, the MC stays strict and locked in shot, calling his noob squad with terrifying efficiency. Studying the leader's intense tracking, the elf realizes she never thought she'd see an orc with such absolute admin level shot calling. Totally lost, the fighter accepts that in over a century of playing, she's never run into mobs this coordinated. While one of the goblins perfectly tags the wooden targets, the prisoner finally gets how high the threat level of this squad really is. The team boss himself flexes his aimbot level precision, shooting the slime piece with the chill vibe of a war veteran. Thanks to the insane knockback of the fake ammo, the practice targets get totally deleted in the middle of the camp. Sweating buckets over this crazy flex of military tech, the girl labels the enemy a literal demon of the battlefield. Right after, Cilia decides she desperately needs to ping the council group about this base ASAP because of the massive aggro. Forcing her character model to move, the girl tries to drag herself over to the dropped crown to boot up the magic voice chat. But before the girl can grab the loot, the leader's fast hand snatches the accessory first, warning her that it's her turn to grind. Far away, the camera cuts to a chill civilian village where an NPC is screaming in panic, warning everyone about a boss mob in the zone. In the town square, a party of adventurers tries to convince the crowd about the scary monster, but the locals just ignore them. Leaning on his staff, the boomer leader hears the yelling and complains he's totally overhearing the same old lore about giant beasts. Panicking, the explorer swears he actually saw the boss and says the OP warrior couldn't do a thing to stop it. Trying to start an event, the adventurers beg the old guy to ping the admins or, at the very least, draft up a militia of casuals. Not caring at all about the server-wide panic, the old man claps back with sarcasm, asking if the orcs somehow managed to fast travel across the ocean. Hiding in the trees on the edge of the map, Legion listens to the chat and wonders why such high-level threats would even spawn in a dead zone like this. Looking at the village square from far away, the soldier analyzes the NPC's idle animations while they chat near the old guy. Locked in on the lore, the commander calls his prisoner over and orders her to stand by his side and play support. Tilted by the command, the girl tries to flame her captor and refuses to do the quest, but her audio gets instantly cut by the magic's override. Since the locals are using a language pack he hasn't unlocked yet, the soldier orders the girl to translate the town's chat for him. Shook by her own body acting like an NPC, Cilia auto-confirms, but instantly starts panicking, wondering why she's even buffing his run. Trying to force her to go up, the leader totally chills and holds up the gold crown, asking if this was what she called the item. With the jewelry glowing softly in his hand, he promises he might drop the loot back for her if the hostage decides to actually carry her weight. But then, he points out the hyped, up little slimes bouncing around and mentions the pets are demanding a reward for taking damage earlier. Chilling next to the fire, the guy holds the gold piece dangerously close to the hot flames and says he'll give her a few seconds to pick a dialogue option. With zero patience for stalling, the human holds up 3 fingers, starting a silent and totally toxic countdown. The fighter absolutely bugs out seeing the item getting closer to the lethal fire damage and begs him to cancel when the timer hits 2. The exact frame he drops to 1, the jelly pet sticks its tongue out, ready to delete the elf's magic radio. Completely folded by the fear, the prisoner drops to the ground and agrees to translate on the spot just to save the crown. Boiling with salt over the toxic trap, Cilia flames the soldier in her head, claiming he acts just like a totally hard villain. Holding back her rage, the girl promises deep down that the second she gets her loot back, she'll make the fake orc get wiped by her guild's aggro. In the main hub, the old guy argues with the adventurers, claiming the biggest aggro in the zone has always just been low-tier goblins. The explorer argues back terrified, swearing he thought the exact same thing until he went face to face with the forest boss in the brush. The drama spikes even more when a totally dripped-out guy walks up, roasting the dumb strat of giving weapons to casuals in the village. Walking with total main character energy, the guild master acts offended and asks if the NPCs stop believing in premium merc services. Flexing a toxic smirk, the rich dude makes sure to remind everyone that carrying this zone is the job of paid pros. Keeping up the sarcasm, he asks what the point is of dropping weapons to noobs with zero practice, just to send them straight to the respawn screen. The adventurer gets totally triggered and calls the guy out as a scammer who taxes the lowest level players on the Lord's routes. Sighing super dramatically at the call out, the merc boss snaps his fingers, making it incredibly obvious he didn't appreciate the flame. Out of nowhere, the rich guy drops a massive critical hit right on the dude's face to forcefully teach him a lesson on respect. Right after the cheap shot, the rest of the goons jump in and start totally griefing the downed guy, ignoring everyone begging them to chill. Going full griefer mode, the suited boss grabs the old leader by the collar, telling the boomer to shut up and stay out of the server's admin stuff. From her hiding spot in the woods, Cilia watches the toxic PP in silence, feeling massive disgust for how the human faction-friendly fires itself. Triggered, the girl blames the sergeant, calling him a garbage-tier troll with zero honor, claiming he's the reason the NPC is suffering. Instead of debating the lore, the ex-military guy just hands a slime piece to his buddy and orders a light cover fire shot. Driven by pure ego, the suited merc tells the old guy to take the L and watch how a real boss operates. But his boss phase ends instantly when a random hit tags him dead in the face, catching the guy totally off guard. After the hit, the rest of the goons start panicking, totally clueless about where the snipe that dropped their boss even came from. Hiding nearby, one of the little goblins freaks out when he recognizes the sound, warning that the green sniper's aggro means a wipe is coming. Scanning the zone from afar, the squad commander declares the scout mission a success and orders the party to dip immediately. Following the squad, the elf fighter copies the retreat command while trying her best not to lag behind in the sprint. But the giant green beast suddenly snaps its head up, detecting a new hitbox rushing right at them. In a split second, one of the tiny locals dashes across the clearing, screaming his chords with super high energy. From the other side, his buddy moves just as fast, answering the ping while gripping his prepped slime weapon. Flexing totally broken movement tech, the giant monster jumps over the logs while hard, carrying one of the goblins on its back. The landing is super soft and quick, showing the absolute perfect synergy between the beast and the makeshift gunner. Without dropping any speed, the beast spins its character model using its tail to give the shooter the ultimate line of sight. With flawless PvP mechanics, the native locks his aimbot onto the enemy, using the combat tutorials his boss drilled into him. Using the momentum, the beast opens its massive jaw right as a glowing attack starts charging up in the back of its throat. The dragon's stare goes absolutely ice cold, 100% locked onto the opponent standing in front of it. In a crazy wombo combo, the creature swallows the human's piece exactly when the goblin fires his fake bullet to drop the guy. Sticking to the strat the sergeant taught, the tiny warrior pulls the trigger without shaking a single pixel in front of the obstacle. With max DPS, the beast's mouth totally deletes the enemy's weapon, ending the threat in literally a frame. The co-op play runs flawlessly, with the dragon CCing the big enemy while the goblins clean up the close quarters PvP. Rushing in with a crafted blade, one of the little guys lands a fast, game-ending crit like an absolute pro. Super clean and perfect inputs, he drops the enemy before the human even gets the frame data to block. The blade parries the opponent's block attempt, using a flawless counter mechanic. Right after, a fast spin puts the knife in the exact right angle for a fatal slash without wasting any stamina on extra inputs. The hit yeets the enemy onto the floor permanently, proving that the native's small hitboxes don't matter if you have the meta tech. Wiping the rest of the mobs with the giant monster's support, the duo proves that military strats are OP in literally any server. Catching the W, the small warrior holsters his piece, confirming the boss's CQC tutorial is completely bug-free. Reviewing the post-match stats, the human flashes back to when the war in his server dragged on and they ran low on active players. In those sweaty days, any veteran who could share strats got promoted to run the combat tutorials. With the sole goal of making sure the noobs didn't get perma-banned, the pros and casuals partied up on the battlefield. Thinking about his own grind during the war, the military guy realizes everyone just sweated their hardest to clear their quests. Keeping your HP above 0 was always the ultimate rule in PvP zones, and looting food armor, and a safe house definitely buffs your chances. Healing his makeshift party's damage, the boss realizes that grinding non-stop without hitting a save point always ends in a team wipe. Chilling around the fire with the squad sitting down, he checks their stats and asks what their current DPS is for raiding a village. The soldier confirms the little dudes downloaded the combat strats insanely fast. As for the slimes, the tiny beasts can now quick shape and dual wield up to 4 items at once to keep the squad stocked on ammo. Looking at the giant beast sleeping on standby next to him, the human adds his own DPS to the total party rating. The UI panel showed that the only requirement to unlock the beast tamer skill was just feeding it after flexing who had the higher power level. With a glowing magic pop-up, the reptile got locked in as a loyal pet after snacking on the loot the commander dropped. Super happy with his new OP party member, the MC drops a totally practical gamer tag for the creature. Riding the beast with the rest of the squad, the military guy calculates they currently have enough aggro for some quick rush strats. Looking at the black screen of his useless phone, the guy groans that they're still missing a totally required item to advance the tech tree. Without long-range voice comms, setting up complex raid strats is insanely difficult. Realizing that having that gear would make the run way easier, the human turns his head and calls his prisoner over. Full of salt, the girl crosses her arms, claiming she already did her quest and demands her crown back right now. Acting like a total troll, the military guy shakes the piece in his hand and sarcastically asks if this is the drop she's talking about. Super desperate to get her premium loot back, the young girl reaches out with shaking hands to grab the magic jewelry. Showing some totally sus intentions, the girl mentally maps out an escape route while inching closer. But the guy yanks his arm back super fast, asking why she's going so crazy over some random cosmetic item. Scanning the enemy's movement, the warrior figures out his whole vibe is a massive red flag. She realizes the buff used on the locals isn't just about raw stat, checking brainless mobs. Bugging her eyes out in shock, The warrior totally gets that the setup she just watched is, without a doubt, a super sweaty, organized military draft. Driven by her faction duties, the girl decides the Divine Council absolutely needs to be warned about this new broken meta. Trying to juke the enemy, she caps and says the piece is just a cosmetic left by her late mom, but the human demands she drop the real lore. In her head, the elf is already plotting to click the magic comms on the item to summon the elders and ban the enemy. Staring at the girl with ice-cold eyes, the military guy stays completely muted, totally breaking down the fake backstory she just dropped. Tilted that she couldn't get a reaction, the warrior curses her bad RNG for not being able to scam him. Putting the clues together about her crazy obsession with the drop, the squad boss asks if this thing has some kind of telepathy skill. The guy holds the gold piece up to the moonlight, straight up asking if the accessory is the elves' Discord server. Without waiting for a reply, the Strat Master inspects the item's curves, trying to reverse engineer how the magic tech works on it. To beta test his theory, the surgeon awkwardly slaps the girl's accessory onto his own head to check out the stats. Totally panicking at seeing the crasher equip the divine item, the fighter screams, begging the human to stop trolling. She tries to lunge and snatch the jewelry off his face, but a magic aura starts glowing with insane brightness. The energy link goes live instantly, pulling the aggro of the Supreme Elf Boomer on the other end of the server. The epic old man pauses his chat in the spirit lobby, feeling a completely unknown power level hacking into the call. Confused by the random uninvited guest, the Lord turns his head slowly to see who had the guts to bypass the firewall. On the other end of the voice chat, the ex-military guy rubs his chin, looking totally lost in the glowing void around him. Unable to load the elf boss's character model, the guy complains that the hardware is totally bugged out. Triggered by the blatant privacy hack, the boomer fully turns to confront the mystery user. Thinking the magic signature is super sus, the Lord drops his warrior's gamer tag, expecting her to explain herself immediately. Logging back into the real world, the soldier takes the jewelry off his head and says the item is corrupted, while the girl panics and asks if he saw the admins. Scratching his head, totally missing the elf's freak out, the military guy asks what was actually supposed to render on the screen. Taking advantage of the lag, one of the tiny locals grabs the accessory and puts it on his head, happily declaring he wants a turn playing with the loot. Right then, the goblin's character model renders in the council spirit lobby, doing a fake cuff to pull aggro. The shock hits the council boomer like a truck, making the old man scream with rage, demanding to know who glitched into the sacred lobby. Totally salty about the griefing, the elf gets lost in the bright void, trying to figure out what kind of bug is happening. Stressed about the trolls ruining the run, Cilia cries and seriously begs the little monsters to be careful with the premium drop. Ignoring the elf's screaming, the locals keep laughing at the cosmetic while the warrior flames them for having zero manners. Suddenly, one of the goblins accidentally steps right on the tiny sticky creature that was just chilling in the dirt. Because of the random collision, the little monster loses its balance, and the jewelry slips from his hands, getting yeeted into the air. Moving at top speed like always, the slime jumps and catches the divine loot before it even hits the floor. The whole party freezes and just watches in dead silence as the little yellow pet grabs the sacred radio. Instantly, the mascot starts melting and super slowly absorbing the gold piece into its own hitbox. The fighter screams in absolute horror, seeing her mom's item literally get deleted right in front of her. Showing absolutely zero chill, the squad commander just coldly orders the slime to finish downloading the item. Far away from the camp, in the astral lobby, the boomer admin gets totally confused when the magic connection gets force. Quit. The jump scare hits critical levels when the tiny monster's model glitches out and swaps with a terrifying boss figure, making the old man scream in terror. Overwhelmed by panic at the cursed visual, the divine boss equips his blades at lightning speed. The old man spams a terrified, fast-paced combo with his weapons to delete the fake crasher. The magic server can't tank the damage and completely crashes in the middle of the bright void. Sweating bullets, the epic lord lowers his swords, totally clueless about what cutscene he just watched. Still trying to buffer the lore, the old guy wonders what in the world his warrior just pulled off. The elf drops the girl's full tag, sadly admitting that the banned warrior is actually his legit successor. Hearing the lore drop through the dying magic chat, the soldier rubs his head, realizing how heavy this backstory really is. Down on the dirt with zero hope left, the captive elf mutters with pure toxicity that she's going to wipe the guy's account. Totally losing it, Cilia screams at the top of her lungs, promising to zero out everyone in the lobby without a single drop of mercy. While the girl keeps spamming her revenge chat, the guy just ignores the toxic behavior and tells the squad it's time to start the grind. Not caring at all about the prisoner's rage quit moment, the party leader just keeps casually walking ahead of his team. A little further away, he holds up the tiny yellow pet and asks if the beast can dupe the magic item it just ate. Totally shocking the human, the slime morphs into a flawless, tactical-grade radio piece. A dark, edgy smirk pops up on the commander's face when he realizes the absolutely broken buff he just unlocked. Shortly after, the little goblins pop up rocking helmets that already have the new built-in radios. Keeping up the military vibe, the commander does a quick mic check, and the squad responds with pure hype. Super stoked about how his DI gadget performed, our hero celebrates his big brain moment. Looking at his crew all geared up, he lets them know the prep for the next task is officially a wrap. Pointing at the horizon, he calls the Shakru, the target for the night raid, is the chill human village nearby. The military guy gives the final go-ahead, telling the crew to rush the designated spots with 0 breaks until they lock the place down. Left behind and tied up at camp, the warrior girl lets out a massive, frustrated sigh. She's super salty thinking about how the enemy managed to swipe and mod her people's comms system. A bit away from there, the squad is speeding through the woods, riding the giant tamed reptile. The girl realizes that a coordinated monster attack on the village is going to be a total disaster, and it'll all be on her. Desperate to protect the civilians, she pushes her legs to the limit, trying to break through the system's control spell. Taking advantage of the orc leader being away, the young warrior channels all her willpower to cancel out this annoying restriction. The massive effort finally pays off, letting the scout's foot drag just a bit over the damp soil. Realizing she got a fraction of control back over her own body, Celia's eyes light up with hope. Struggling big time, she finds some leverage and manages to lift herself slightly off the forest floor. But the weakness kicks in right at the first few steps, and the elf ends up stumbling awkwardly through the trees. Back on the ground, she curses her own lag, knowing time is seriously running out for the villagers' survival. Fighting through the pain, the captive refuses to give up, figuring that crawling is still way better than just AFK-ing there. Tapping into the power of her ancestors, the girl calls upon the wind spirits, remembering her pride as a warrior of light. She intensely prays for nature's energy to fill her body and give her the speed boost she needs to dip out of there. With a fiery look in her eyes, the scout vows to show everyone the true fury of her immortal race. The magic wakes up at max capacity, launching the girl into a supersonic dash through the night. Cutting through the wind, she lets out a battle cry as she breaks her body's own limits during that desperate escape. Confident she'll find a way to calm with her people in the village, Celia flashes a crazy smile. Leaving nothing but a blur in her wake, she tells the winds that her golden payback is going to wreck that despicable orcs. The POV shifts back to the peaceful human village, which is just chilling under the cold light of the full moon. Lackey mercenary reports in, totally panicking, saying he got hit directly by a spell from a high-level enemy shaman. Completely brushing off the henchman's freak out, the commander laughs at the ridiculous idea of monsters roaming their turf. Keeping up the arrogant act, Harold flexes that his guild controls every single access route to that place. Right in the middle of the plaza, the villain starts spitting threats at the villagers who are cornered on their knees. Using the recent chaos as an excuse, the leader accuses the locals of plotting a secret uprising. Violently grabbing an old man's face, the crook asks if what happened to the last hostages wasn't a clear enough warning. Going full ruthless, he orders his guys to take out half the men and sell the women and kids. But before that cruel order can drop, the guy in the suit pauses, noticing some unusual commotion coming their way. Totally out of breath, the elf warrior finally hits the plaza, instantly grabbing the leader's attention. Gasping for air after pushing her stamina to 0, the hooded girl drops to her knees in front of everyone. The guild boss steps up, super curious about who this random uninvited guest might be. Ignoring the bad guys, the warrior desperately tells everyone to run fast because monsters are on the way. Finding the whole thing hilarious, the leader raises his hands asking everyone to chill so he can check the girl out. He steps up with a mocking vibe and lifts the prisoner's chin, totally shocked to realize she's an elf. The reveal leaves the other mercs shook, remembering that this race's golden power is no joke. Right away, Harold notices the girl isn't wearing the sacred tiara, which means she's stripped of any divine plot armor. With a wicked smirk, the bandit figures she got kicked out of her home and labels her a total pity case. Ready to cash in on this rare find, the leader announces she's his new hostage and tells his goons to make a move. While the elf begs them to escape the actual danger, a bald henchman walks up, laughing at the whole setup. The brute chuckles, joking that this so-called immortal threat waves about as much as a helpless toddler. Trying to show off for the boss, the dude lifts the girl with just one hand, 0 effort required. Suddenly, Harold's smug face gets wiped clean, replaced by absolute shock. A perfectly aimed strike hits the bald goon right in the back of the neck, totally catching the attacker off guard in the middle of the square. The hit drops the bad guy instantly, leaving the guild leader frozen from the sheer surprise of the ambush. The dry pop of a DIY smoke grenade echoes across the plaza floor, making everyone turn their heads. Walking out of the thick smoke, the sergeant strides right up to the girl on the ground, leaving the merc totally stunned by his terrifying aura. Without missing a beat, the ex-military guy raises his slime gun, taking a protective stance right next to the captive elf. Keeping his eyes locked on the threat ahead, he coldly announces he's there to rescue her. Hearing that, Celia lifts her head, still super confused, and asks if the orc seriously came to pull her out of this mess. Never breaking his tough guy act, the squad leader explains he's here to take back control of both her and the villagers. Then, he taps the warrior's shoulder, meaning to help her up off the freezing ground. That gentle touch makes the hooded girl's eyes go wide, realizing how crazy familiar that protective vibe feels. In that exact second, she remembers the nice human who patched her up late at night, connecting the dots between the two mystery guys. Snapping the girl out of her thoughts, the MC asks if she's hurt, getting a slightly dazed no in response. Shortly after, he apologizes for the drama and asks the scout to get back to her translator gig so he can talk to the crowd. Raising his pistol, the sergeant demands loud and clear that they start negotiating right this second. The guild boss takes a step back, sweating bullets at the invader's energy, and stutters, having zero clue what kind of deal a monster wants to make. Making it crystal clear he's not playing games, the military man says he'll give them just enough time to process the offer. Pointing his weapon at the enemies, he starts a quiet, scary countdown, saying the number 3. Aiming with crazy precision, the tactician's eye tracks the tension in the room the exact moment the number 2 drops. Hidden in the dark, one of the goblin allies aims his crafted weapon and calls the number 1. On the other side of the square, another masked little monster locks onto his target, ready to follow the master's call. Catching onto the ambush, the merc leader tries to look over his shoulder right as the shots start popping off across the village. The rubber bullets hit the goons dead on, wrecking their formation before they can even try to team up and fight back. One by one, the guys hit the dirt, leaving the suited leader in absolute panic, totally clueless about what just happened to his squad. Floored and defeated, the opponents prove that the ex-military guy's ambush strats worked flawlessly. Harold's face twists in pure terror as he witnesses the wild efficiency of this totally underestimated monster squad. Fueled by rage, one of the remaining invaders charges with a spear, trash-talking the sergeant and asking what kind of dark hacks he used. Screaming his lungs out, the enemy warrior goes all in on the squad leader, wanting payback for his downed bros. Without a second of hesitation, the MC smoothly fires point blank at the incoming threat. Riding that momentum, he keeps dropping precise combos on the other bandits trying to counter-attack. The force of the non-lethal rounds knocks the enemies back, shutting down any chance of armed resistance in the center of the square. A flexing veteran-level skills, the orc kicks one goon right in the knee while simultaneously shooting a second target. Right after, he casually dodges a sword swing and lands a shot square in the attacker's chest, dropping yet another opponent. Out of nowhere, a final merc jumps out stealthily behind the sergeant, raising his weapon and telling the monster to get lost. Lightning reflexes, the squad leader spins around and uses his own slime gun to block the strike. The force of the counter hits the invader right in the face, completely ruining his attack stance. Giving him zero time to recover, the military guy uses his DIY ammo, sending the dude flying instantly. Standing alone in the center of the brawl, the tactician grips his weapon tight, giving off such a dangerous vibe that the rest of the village just freezes. Then, the gelatin weapon starts melting in his hands, meaning the little creature ran out of energy for the shots. The metal-like structure completely falls apart, forcing the human to adapt super fast to losing his main gear. Sweating from the stress, one of the goons tries to call for a timeout, realizing he is completely boxed in with no way out. Keeping an icy stare, the MC just points the leftover slime at the grounded guy, making sure nobody else tries to pull a fast one. While he's checking out the bad guys giving up in front of him, a dagger blade quietly sneaks up right behind his back. Catching onto the cheap shot, the sergeant spins his body with sudden, perfect timing to block the new threat. The ex-military guy grips the blonde merc's arm with crazy strength, stopping the stab while aiming his broken weapon right at the guy's face. Hyped up on battle adrenaline, the leader's eyes glow a fierce red, glaring at his opponent with the rage of a literal raid boss. Completely terrified by that demonic look, the bandit lets out a high-pitched scream of despair and drops his dagger. Crying out of pure fear, the coward turns tail and sprints out of the plaza at max speed, totally ignoring his boss screaming at him to come back. Stressed out by the runner, Harold yells at his leftover guys, asking why they're just standing there and ordering an all-out attack. But the goons just look around scared and confused, realizing the situation is 100% out of their hands. Closing the net, the allied goblins step out with blades ready, hitting them with a super intimidating combat stance. One of the masked goblins flips his knife like a pro, making it clear he's got zero chill for anyone trying to fight. A second native raises his weapon looking scary as hell, cutting off any escape route the humans thought they had. Seeing his entire army get clapped by tiny forest monsters, the guild commander turns pale and goes into full panic mode. The tension hits max level when the barrel of the slime gun taps the suit guy's neck super coldly, catching him totally off guard from behind. Switching to the demonic language, the surgeon drops a terrifying, straight up order for the villain to get on his knees right now. Unable to handle the pressure that command, the crook's legs shake non-stop and give out under the weight of his own fear. Hitting the dirt with a thud, the merc leader stays on his knees, admitting he got completely outplayed by the orch. Lit by the moon, MC stands there soaking in the W, while Celia and the locals watch the whole final speechless. The village residents stare in shock, unable to process how the guild's grip got shattered so fast by forest beings. The elf warrior stares at the disguised human leader, feeling super fascinated, trying hard to figure out the depth of his actions. Breaking the silence, the ex-military guy calls one of his minions and tells him to track down the blonde merc who ran away crying. After dropping the order, he turns his eyes to the scout and calls her by her name, using a super serious and direct tone. With totally chill patience, the surgeon asks the girl to step back into her translator role so he can talk to the townsfolk. Walking up until he stops right in front of the huddled crowd, he asks out loud if these people are terrified of them being there. Looking at their scared faces, he asks if the panic is because he's an orc, or because he brought forest goblins along. The villagers shrink back even more, whispering in terror about being so close to such a massive, monstrous dude. Shocking literally everyone, the squad leader clearly states that his team is also super scared of humans. He explains that this fear just comes from the simple fact that their species don't really know each other and can't communicate. Getting a bit deep, the ex-military guy points out that before you even notice, all that fear quickly turns into pure hate and discrimination. Showing a look full of painful flashbacks, he reveals that his own world is being burned to the ground by war for that exact same reason. The human's mind gets flooded with memories of his fire-wrecked home, stating that ruin just eats everything until the real reasons for the fights are completely forgotten. Snapping back to the peaceful village vibe, he asks if the locals really want their home to turn into a nightmare, just like his. Seeing the crowd hesitating, the MC chills everyone out by saying they can totally save that answer for later. Playing the diplomat, he announces he wants to pitch a simple deal, focused on what's best for both sides. Offering a hand to the old village leader, the tactician promises that his squad will keep the humans safe from any outside threats. In exchange for this VIP protection, he humbly asks the locals to also back up the monsters and give them a safe spot to chill. Wrapping up his speech, the sergeant promises to treat and protect everyone equally, just asking them to team up so both sides can survive in this crazy dangerous place. Hearing the sergeant's pitch, the village folks look at each other, totally stressed out. A little later, one of the younger villagers gathers up some courage and speaks up, asking how they could ever trust the word of a beast. Chaos quickly takes over the group, with the peasants saying the creature is made of pure evil and definitely has some shady hidden agenda. Keeping his cool, the squad leader replies that his goal is super simple and is literally just about making sure everyone stays alive. He breaks it down, saying he just wants to live in peace, only looking to score food, clothes, and a safe home base through the village. Resting a hand on his hip, the military man promises that, whether they help out or not, he will never lay a finger on the locals. Celia watches the orc's body language closely as he doubles down on his promise to protect the zone. But the vibe totally flips when the human subtly draws his weapon, letting out a sharp metallic click. Dropping his voice to a dark tone, the sergeant warns that if any of them decide to turn on his squad, the results will be a whole different story. Pointing at the crooks laid out on the ground, he lets them know that anyone who backstabs them will end up exactly where the bandits are. Giving off an insanely scary presence with his eyes locked on them, the ex-military guy guarantees that brutal payback is an absolute promise. Facing that straight-up intimidation, the old human leader starts shaking with fear, leaning hard on his cane. Even while terrified, the old man steps forward and apologizes for bothering the orc shaman, totally ignoring the warning whispers from the other villagers. The elder explains that a bunch of the village folks are currently being held hostage at some unknown gang's secret base. He makes a huge point about a dwarf blacksmith named Balik, admitting the guy was the ultimate creator of the town's tech and fabrics. Full of anxiety, the old man cries, saying that if they try to help, the whole village will face heavy payback and the captives will meet their end. Listening to the sad story patiently, the MC states with zero hesitation that he's going to free the prisoners himself. That sudden promise totally blindsides both the village chief and the elf. The old guy's jaw drops, unable to process why such a terrifying being would volunteer to help just like that. Turning his back to the crowd, the sergeant adds that he's also going to clean up the criminals, asking if that changes their answer. Still kinda in disbelief, the locals ask about the rescue plan, wanting to know if the orc even has a clue where the bandit base is. Flexing major confidence, the ex-military guy says he already sent some natives to tail the goon who ran away, and they're rolling out the second they find the spot. He highlights that deciding whether to team up is still on the village, but those henchmen are officially off the worry list now. Never dropping his boss posture, the commander sums up his whole mindset, stating he repays good with good and bad with bad. Celia pays super close attention to his words, noticing just how complex this leader, who calls himself a monster, really is. The human finishes by saying that, thanks to them, the actual threats in that area are about to be permanently cancelled. Far away from there, at a fort hidden in the woods, the scene cuts to a merc yawning his head off during his night patrol. The guy asks his buddy if the next shift woke up yet, guessing the dude is probably stuck in the bathroom. The base is a pretty sturdy wooden setup, complete with lookouts in the towers and at the front gates. Hiding in the forest, the elf uses a glowing eye spell to scout the entire enemy fort from afar. With her special skill, the girl maps out the fort's defenses, spotting an archer up high and 2 guards with spears at the door. Zooming in like a telescope, she relays the tactical data back to the leader, who is listening right behind her. But one of the goblins starts roasting the elf, claiming he already gave them that intel and she's only good for having HD vision. Ignoring the mascot's trash talk, the sergeant genuinely hypes up the warrior's skill and apologizes for ever underestimating her. Puffing up with pride, Celia looks super confident and brags that her species' vision can literally see past mountains. Cutting the chat short, the human asks if she can see through the fort walls, which makes the elf curse at the impossible request. Checking out the setup, the ex-military guy notes the raid would be way cleaner and faster if they just had a map of the place. Right then, a tiny blue lizard randomly jumps out of the bushes, completely jump-scaring one of the group's goblins. The little animal latches right onto the goblin's face, who completely panics and screams, trying to yank the thing off. Ignoring the chaos, the leader tells the native to focus on the mission while his buddy tries to pull the reptile off with actual force. Things get worse when the lizard chomps right into the center of the goblin's face, making him cry from the pain. Always keeping his cool, Li Jian says everyone needs to group up with their gear as soon as they head back to base. Confused by the clingy creature, the injured goblin asks what kind of flying meat just attached itself to him. The other native clarifies it's a blue imp that absolutely refuses to let go of its prey, sarcastically suggesting his friend just bite it back. Looking closely at the lizard, the sergeant scratches his chin in thought and says he just had a big brain idea for breaking into the fort. As soon as the system pops up saying the pet was tamed and leveled up, the sergeant strikes a dramatic pose and tosses the animal, declaring he chose it for the job. The tiny lizard gets yeeted awkwardly, having zero clue what's going on. Because it's literally microscopic, the creature glides right over the gate guards without anyone noticing a thing. The little guy floats smoothly through the dark night, perfectly infiltrating the mercenary fort. The second it lands inside, you can see a piece of slime stuck to its back acting like a tactical mini-cam. Moving like a pro, the reptile runs along the stone walls of the underground passage, heading straight for the prison block. Using the tiny spy's probe, the radio streams the footage of the bad guys moving around inside the base. The DI lens records the whole spot, exposing exactly where all the guards are hanging in the hallways. Outside, the MC holds another chunk of slime that plays the video like a literal iPad, letting the whole squad watch the stream. Nearby, Celia stares at the setup, totally mind blown by the tech magic this commander managed to pull off. Giving in to her curiosity, the elf gets kinda shy and quietly asks if she can watch the stream too. But the second she takes one step toward the monsters, the girl freezes right in her tracks. Her species' pride kicks in hard, forcing the girl to back up with a face full of doubt and embarrassment. In her head, the scout beats herself up, thinking it's straight up crazy to want to hang with these creatures, no matter the situation. Full of regret, she wonders how low she's gonna fall, calling herself a washed-up warrior who forgot how to fight. Clenching her fist, the elf judges herself harshly, wondering if being a disgrace to her race wasn't already enough. The inner drama gets interrupted by a jump scare when a goblin yells super hyped that he found the cell with the hostages. Hearing the shout, the girl touches the slime radio stuck to her ear, zoning in on the comms. Right after, the ex-military guy holds out another radio for her, ordering her to take the device. Super shocked by the enemy's gesture, the captive puts the earpiece in without getting why he did that. Taking charge of the strat, the sergeant reports that the location is confirmed, and he's going to ping the layout to her. Through the lizard cam, the human hostages look terrified, and the leader figures a speedrun rescue means they gotta chill the group out first. Looking seriously at the girl, he decides she should lead the push, since the NPCs definitely won't trust monsters that don't even speak their language. The military guy emphasizes that the squad needs her help to make the plan work, which hits the elf right in the feels. Then the POV cuts back inside the base, where a merch hears a weird noise out in the courtyard. The guard readies his weapon wanting to know who's there, and ends up staring at Cilia, just casually walking in the moonlight. Two bandits aim their spears at the intruder, completely baffled to see a lone, unarmed elf just chilling there. Keeping their guard up, the guys walk closer trying to figure out what the girl is doing solo in the fort. While one lowers his weapon thinking it's safe, two masked goblins sneak up dead silent right behind them. Before the grounded guards can even react, the lookout in the high tower screams in terror as he gets stealth dropped by the orcs. Hearing the sketchy noise in the dark, one of the goons raises his weapon on high alert, totally confused by what's happening. Giving him zero time to counter, Lee Jian cancels the bad guy fast with a sneaky and knockout blow from behind. The sergeant moves through the base with the squad and orders the team to rush straight to the main hallway entrance. One goblin drops a guard in the left room super fast and quiet, following orders flawlessly. Meanwhile, the other goblin neutralizes two more opponents in the right hallway, keeping the route clear. The blue lizard takes the lead and points its DIY gadget, ready to deal with whatever problem pops up. Right on their tail, the green goblin plays support, covering the team's tactical push. The elf takes the center spot in the formation, while the commander makes sure everyone is safe by watching their six. Running on this solid strat, the squad moves through the shadows with insane speed and fatal efficiency. The ex-military guy stops in front of the prison and stresses that they need to avoid shooting at all costs so they don't make noise. The trapped humans look up totally scared, not understanding the random activity going down in the prison block. Cilia grabs the key and tries to calm the locals down, promising that they're finally out of the danger zone. She explains the village chief sent her to save them, making the civilians straight up cry from gratitude and relief. But the sergeant cuts the party short, demanding they stay quiet and hurry up to set up the instant escape. Locked in on the plan, he tells his two helpers to keep scanning the area while he finishes busting out the prisoners. The leader also gives the green light to use rubber bullets if things get super sketchy on the way out. With the door wide open, the warrior guides the locals to follow the massive monster waiting for them outside. Annoyed by how she described him, a captive dwarf grumbles about being mixed up with some old human dude. Hiding in another cell, a guy's voice mocks the whole thing, calling the girl an exiled elf missing her sacred crown. The girl freezes in panic hearing that threatening tone, realizing that this mysterious prisoner is right there. The chained up guy looks at the squad and locks onto the sergeant, freezing up when he sees the race of the dude who came to rescue him. The other villagers hear that and go into full panic mode, realizing they're standing in front of a wild forest beast. Falling into deep despair, they scream for help, yelling that the place is being raided by monsters. The elf desperately begs them to chill, trying to control the chaos and repeating for the 100th time that the orc is completely safe. Military guy just watches everyone freak out in silence, never dropping his cold, unbothered face. Having literally no way to explain this mess, the girl awkwardly blurts out that he's actually a very good boy monster. The dwarf hears that terrible excuse and starts busting out laughing, completely deleting the tension in the hallway. He clowns on the elf, saying it's way easier to believe literally any crazy lie than the idea of a monster. The captive drops some major prejudice, yelling he'd rather end his run locked up in there than be saved by beasts and pointy ears. But before he can finish hating, the guy takes a fast hit that mutes him instantly. The squad leader points the slime pistol right at the scared dwarf's face, guessing he had a really rough time in lockup. Feeling super disrespected, the prisoner complains that he always like this and demands the opponent put some respect on his name. He proudly announces he goes by Balik Ironbeard, which makes the sergeant connect the name to the legendary blacksmith. Totally lost, the hostage thinks it's wild that an orc speaks his language, suddenly noticing the weapon aimed right at his forehead. The blacksmith's eyes light up with curiosity as he starts checking out the heavy-duty material of that weird gun. Hyped about the gadget's mechanics, he tries to grab the pistol to get a better look, but the military guy tells him to back off immediately. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream of panic echoes through the halls, abruptly cutting the little argument inside the prison. The sound of crazy, rapid fire confirms that the goblin helpers just got into a straight-up boss fight with a massive threat. Over the slime comms, one of the little monsters reports, in full panic, that they just bumped into the bandit boss. Out in the courtyard, a mystery woman is floating in the air wrapped in a terrifying purple aura. The woman is radiating pure cruelty, while the goblin warns that the enemy is a wildly dangerous human witch. The tactician listens to the frantic report, not fully getting how actual magic works in a real shootout. The witch spins her staff super fast, gathering an insane amount of destructive energy right around herself. With zero mercy, she fires a bunch of super dangerous magic wind arrows at the tiny intruders. The green goblin barely dodges the storm of explosive hits that turn the fort wall into absolute rubble. Hiding behind a pillar, the mascot tries to tank the brutal attack while thick smoke fills the whole area. Only a cut-off scream comes through the radio before the leader starts desperately demanding a status update from his team. Realizing how bad things are, the sergeant tells the warrior to dip with the civilians back to the village ASAP. He makes it an absolute order not to wait around, which leaves the elf completely stunned by this fake monster's protective instinct. Using the chaotic moment, the dwarf locks eyes with the orc leader, looking dead serious. Moving fast and perfectly on target, the captive tosses a shiny object right at the ex-military guy to catch. The hero grabs the piece midair, super surprised that this stubborn prisoner actually decided to play co-op. Opening his hand, he sees an epic golden key, while the dwarf totally flexes his own brilliant creation. The crafter announces the tools ridiculously over, the top name making the elf mutter about his zero creativity. Balik gets serious again and promises the soldier will know exactly where to plug that piece in once he hits the combat zone. The human sprints through the fort's dark hallways, weapon drawn, promising to make it in time to save his tiny bros. The constant flash of fake bullets lights up the dark as he rushes stops straight for the outer courtyard. Outside, the green goblin tries to fire back, shooting endlessly at the lethal threat floating in the sky. Hovers above them, just laughing at these little creatures failing so hard to even scratch her. Totally drunk on the battle hype, the villain demands more content while charging up another OP magic attack. The witch preps her energy and drops a crushing new wave of wind arrows straight onto the downed enemies. The violent force of the hits launches the two natives hard into the air, deleting any chance they had to defend themselves. But right before the hit can send them to the spawn screen, a sudden move distracts the lethal witch up high. Spotting the fast-approaching danger, she throws up a shield barrier around herself to block it. Standing at the courtyard entrance, the leader points his smoking pistol and coldly asks if she's the one running this place. The woman loses all her chill and starts screaming hysterically once she spots what species the new intruder is. Full of hate, the mage insults the soldier, calling him filthy trash, and orders her magic beast to wreck him with zero mercy. Right behind the MC, a massive shadow pops up while the goblins on the ground scream to warn him. The ex-military guy turns his head at the very last second, spotting the colossal beast totally blocking his escape route. The giant hybrid monster raises its terrifying claws, making it obvious it's about to pancake the human in one shot. The beast lets out a deafening roar, flexing all its rage right in the victim's face in the stone courtyard. Showing off insane reflexes, the sergeant leaps away, barely dodging the fatal smash that shatters the floor where he just stood. He points his gelatin gun while sliding on the broken ground, firing a crazy burst of focused shots straight at the enemy. But the fake bullets just bounce right off the monster's tanky hide, dealing zero visible damage to the beast. Frustrated that his gun got nerfed, the tactician grits his teeth, feeling the pressure of this armored opponent's insane strength. The hybrid monster drops a dizzying roar, while the goblins panic, yelling that the bullets are completely useless. Out of options, the sergeant crouches with pistol in hand, trying to scan this absolute nightmare scenario. Looking at his slime gadget, he figures he has to buy time against the beast so his teammates can actually bail. A tiny projectile perfectly snipes the beast right in the eye, totally catching the colossal creature off guard. Bugged by the sudden pain in its face, the giant lets out a high-pitched noise of pure suffering. Losing its balance, the beast thrashes wildly all over the stone floor. Taking advantage of the distraction, the orc tells the green goblin to grab his buddy and run, and to absolutely not come back. Further away, the mage watches the whole mess from the top of a pillar, while the military guy stays locked in his battle stance. Smirking like a troll, the woman says the guild literally needs villains around to keep their business booming. She asks, totally offended, how some low-tier work tools have the nerve to cause this much lag in her hideout. Dropping a storm of magic arrows, the witch threatens to chop off the invader's limbs and toss him in the trash. The ex-military guy's eyes go wide when he realizes the crazy speed of the fatal magic flying straight at him. Jumping backward, he barely escapes the absolute destruction the attacks are leaving on the floor. But the massive beast respawns right behind his back, raising its heavy paws to crush him. The sergeant checks his 6 at the last possible second. realizing with pure horror that there's no way out. Out of nowhere, a massive iron cage drops from the sky and bunks the giant right on the head. The heavy drop flattens the beast against the floor, saving the MC, who was a millisecond away from getting deleted. Furious at the interruption, the witch waves her staff and tells those beasts to shut up. Then, a smaller cage crashes into the courtyard, revealing something locked inside. Curious about the random drop, the sergeant squints at the object from a distance, wondering what the heck it is. Keeping his guard up, he watches the fallen cage sitting right near the downed monster's paw. Spotting a tiny arm flailing through the bars, the military guy connects the dots instantly. Looking at the locked latch, he figures out right away that the trapped creature has to be the colossal monster's baby. It clicks instantly, giving the tactician an obvious cheat code to flip this massive disadvantage in his favor. He quickly pulls the gold key he scored from the blacksmith right before the raid out of his pocket. The item glows in his hands, reminding him it's a master key that can hack literally any lock. The dwarf's voice echoes in the soldier's head, promising he'd know the exact moment to pop that item. Even while holding the literal exit strategy, the leader pauses for a sec to check the distance. The catch is the cage is way too far, and he has zero idea how to cross the courtyard without taking massive damage. Right then, the little blue lizard randomly spawns on his shoulder, totally ready for action. Looking at his tiny spy bro, the ex-military guy realizes this little guy is his best shot. A confident smirk pops up on the human's face, and he hands the golden key over to his miniature teammate. With a slick move, the sergeant yeets the lizard through the air with max power, telling him to go all out. The little guy cuts through the courtyard air like a literal arrow, instantly catching the villain's attention. Totally caught off guard, the mage asks, super offended, what this invader even thinks he's doing. Focused on canceling his play, the witch charges up yet another deadly rain of wind arrows. Flexing some insane speed stats, the tiny reptile dodges every single magic hit while gliding. Surfing through the explosive storm, the mascot reaches the metal prison clutching the golden key. With perfect aim, the animal slides the item right into the padlock. The piece turns smooth as butter, and the mechanism unlocks in a split second. The iron doors pop open with a bang, dropping the round little monsters that were locked inside. The babies tumble out from the top in a super clumsy drop, straight toward the stone floor. The mage looks up, completely clueless about the shadow speeding right at her face. With zero time to dodge, the woman takes a hit to the face from one of the babies, falling like a literal bowling ball. The weird impact makes the witch scream in terror as she gets knocked off the pillar. The woman faceplants hard onto the stone floor, kicking up a massive cloud of dust while the leader watches the whole thing. Panicking hard, the villain tries to peel the baby off her own face, screaming for the disgusting beasts to get away. Furious from the embarrassment, she grabs her magic staff with every ounce of energy she can scrape together. With zero chill, the witch smacks the tiny creature on the ground, telling it to back off. The giant hears its hurt baby crying and stands up, dropping an outrageously angry roar. Gulps, realizing she just made a fatal blunder by hitting the beast's kid. With eyes burning with pure hate, the beast rushes its own boss, who tries to backpedal in total panic. Pinned to the floor, the woman rages, asking if all the monsters just went completely bugged. In a last-ditch effort to take back control, she orders the monster to crush the orc's head right this second. Not caring about her orders at all, the beast just attacks the woman, fully focused on defending its kids. In the middle of the courtyard chaos, a booming voice echoes out, calling on the wind spirits. The elf responds wrapped in a blinding magic light, charging up all the OP energy of her people. The glowing energy channels straight into the girl's legs, geared up to delete any obstacle in her way. Radiating boss energy, Cilia walks up looking solid and elegant to enter the chat. Completely stunned, locked by the terrifying aura, the witch asks who exactly just rolled up on them. Gathering massive power, the warrior spins her body, winding up for a knockout blow. Glaring daggers at her opponent, the girl calls the villain a completely brain-dead creature. She unleashes a super sharp, angry kick, throwing a slicing wind wave across the zone. Moving like an acrobat, the scout controls the whole storm around her with crazy high skill. The girl's leg slices the air, generating a force so heavy it shatters the entire courtyard floor. Without losing an ounce of grace, she coldly announces that she's the one running this server now. A massive wind blade gets launched straight at the witch, sending chunks of the map flying everywhere. Spinning in mid-air, Cilia rides her own magic just to make absolutely sure the target has zero chance to log out. The combo attacks tear through the space fatally, shutting down any defense the mage tries to pull. The hit catches the woman dead on, launching the merc backward with insane knockback. The shockwave is so violent that the soldier and the giant literally have to take cover from the wind it kicks up. The villain's body slams brutally into the stone wall, absolutely leveling the fort's structure. After flexing that crushing power, the elf touches down super light and gracefully on the ground. Hiding behind his cover, the green goblin's eyes pop out, totally amazed by the massive W. The sweaty vibe finally clears out, and the little creatures celebrate, jumping around hyped with the lizard. Offering a polite handshake, the sergeant asks the scout not to read too much into what just happened. The elf matches his energy right away, claiming she only backed him up because she absolutely hated the idea of owing an orc a favor. That, they shake on it, locking in a formal truce now that the raid boss is down. The ex-military guy finds her logic pretty sound and declares their tab officially settled. Away from the action, the blacksmith takes a chill walk through the fort's halls, stepping right past the downed guards. Showing exactly zero mercy, Balik stumps heavily on the guys wiped out along his path. Getting close to another goon, he raises his hammer, ready to make sure the enemy stays logged off for good, but taking a closer look, he realizes the dude is already totally knocked out. Glad the rescue run was a success, the dwarf drops his guard in the middle of the dungeon. Suddenly, a loud hiss echoes down the hall, grabbing the blacksmith's attention instantly. Back in the wrecked courtyard, the squad circles up around the witch, who is still floored and totally defeated. Super casually, the giant winged beast chugs a purple potion the commander handed over. The monster's babies also get in on the magic drink, sipping it straight from the jar. The system pops a notification saying the goblin's drink mixed with the elf's magic was a total success, confirming the beasts are fully tamed. Hyped ungrateful, the babies jump right into the military guy's arms, totally surprising him with the random affection. The cute moment gets cut when the sergeant and the warrior snap their heads back, looking super surprised. At the entrance, the dwarf finally pulls up after finishing his loot sweep of the fort. Balik checks out the weird squad, judging the bizarre team up happening between creatures and pointy ears. Back in the chill village, the old human leader asks, totally mind blown, what the heck went down during the rescue op. Right in front of him, the rescue squad pulls up victorious, carrying the hostages riding on the giant winged beast its back. Totally calm, the MC just replies that the mission was a bit grundier than he expected. Right away, the villagers rush over, stressed but relieved, to reunite with their newly saved families. The plaza fills up with tight hugs and happy crying, while the crowd thanks them a million times for the miracle. Taking advantage of the party mood, the sergeant catches the village leader's eye to deliver a little bonus content. He points to the merc boss and his gang, all tied up and handled, saying the village can decide what to do with them. Having flawlessly kept his promise to protect them, the soldier asks what the locals' final call is going to be. He directly asks the old man if, after all this craziness, they are down to team up with his squad. The leader grips his cane with tears in his eyes, feeling massive gratitude before dropping his answer. The POV cuts to the inside of the local tavern, where a drink gets raised for a hyped-up toast. The whole town is celebrating super hard, officially welcoming their new guardians with a massive party. The crowd tells their guests to make themselves at home, while the goblins inhale the food with absolutely zero table manners. Starving, the little monsters grab massive chunks of meat and stuff their faces, eating like there's no tomorrow. Watching the feast with total disgust, the elf mutters that eating like that is strictly wild creature behavior. But one of the natives notices the girl sitting alone and offers her a piece of meat to share. Caught off guard by the goblin being a bro, the warrior gulps and sweats, nervously looking at the rustic food. Trying to play it cool, she lies to herself, saying she'll only taste it to be polite about the human's hospitality. Making it weirder, the slime radio decides to troll and also hands the elf some weird food to try. Sitting away from the loud chaos, the military guy just chills quietly in the corner, watching the party happen. The sergeant's eyes show a deep sense of peace, actually happy seeing his teammates getting treated so well. In the background, Celia gives up trying to act tough and eats with the little monsters, creating a super wholesome vibe. That party atmosphere makes the ex-military guy flashback to his old human squad from back in the day. Remembering sharing meals with his war bros makes the MC feel a little sad and nostalgic. But the feels trip gets violently interrupted when a mug gets slammed super hard on his table. The loud bang grabs Legion's attention, and he snaps his head around instantly to see who just walked up. Staring the orc down, the blacksmith says he's not falling for this fake hero act, because a monster is always going to act like a monster. Sitting right across from the ex-military guy, Balik accuses him of taking out the enemies with zero mercy, asking what exactly makes him different from the bad guys. Instead of arguing back, the human just raises his glass and sips his beer, totally unbothered. Then, he cuts through the tension by calling the dwarf by his full name, keeping it super respectful. The crafter blinks, stunned, as the leader starts breaking down the real difference between his squad and the deleted goons. With the icy stare of a veteran soldier, he states that his team was just better and held nothing back, making sure the opponents got fully wiped out. The biggest difference is that they walked out alive, and as he drops that line, the orc tosses a small item right at the dwarf. Balik catches the piece mid-air, realizing it's his golden key, being returned along with a massive thanks for the clutch assist. Letting out a sarcastic laugh, the blacksmith admits the invader is pretty annoying and definitely doesn't act like a normal orc, finally asking what his name is. Catching the question, the elf warrior's long ears twitch, eavesdropping on the chat from a distance. Super curious about her captor's lore, Cilia stops eating instantly and focuses 100% on what he's about to drop. The human pauses for a sec before doing his lore drop, adjusting his rank and just calling himself Legion. The girl mutters the name to herself, feeling her cheeks heat up just a little at the answer. Totally confused by the words, the dwarf grumbles that a name like that makes zero sense for such a massive beast. Not caring about the complaints, the sergeant replies dryly that he's not even part of the orc species. He keeps the story going, admitting that, as crazy as it sounds, he used to be just a normal human dude before getting dropped into this totally bugged world. Outside, the quiet night vibe of the village totally clashes with the crazy hype going on inside the tavern. The blacksmith spits his entire drink out and bursts into loud, obnoxious laughter after hearing the backstory. Pounding the table, he laughs until he cries, asking if the military guy seriously expects anyone to buy that fairy tale about another world and a dragon. Certain the human is just making up lore, Balik laughs, saying he just met the funniest beast on the planet. Leaning closer to the orc, the freed captive mockingly asks what the next phase of this wild master plan is. He raises his mug, suggesting a toast to this supposedly crazy soldier, finding the whole thing incredibly funny. With absolutely zero patience for trolls, the commander pulls out the Dragon Lord's greenish egg and slams it on the table. The shock is so massive that the dwarf chokes instantly, spraying beer everywhere with a totally terrified look on his face. Still coughing, Balik listens to the surgeon explain that he needs to hatch the creature to figure out how to fast travel back home. But a massive crash shakes the whole room, instantly shutting down their conversation. A fancy boot stumps aggressively on the wood, making literally everyone turn to look. Overflowing with rage, the elf warrior jumps on the furniture, locking eyes with the dragon item with pure intent to end its whole career. Without a second thought, Cilia launches a devastating kick that snaps the table right in half, laser, focused on smashing the egg. The people in the tavern back away terrified, totally lost at the girl's sudden rage quit moment. The human chief drops his glass, frozen by the random chaos that just kicked off. But right before the hit connects with the relic, the ex-military guy reacts with insane frame data and grips the elf's arm with crazy strength. Ordering the girl to quit the nonsense right now, the leader screams her name, grabbing the attention of the entire room. With her kick parried, the girl keeps her leg hanging in the air while the soldier absolutely refuses to back down from defending the loot. Completely triggered by the block, Cilia turns her head, glaring at the human with some deep-rooted hate. Blinded by fury, she pushes forward and grabs the commander's clothes super aggressively. The girl accuses him of being a beast in disguise, straight up declaring he's a simp for that green dragon. Totally ignoring her tantrum, the military guy just locks down the scout's arm while she keeps screaming for answers. Seeing their leader get jumped, the two goblins draw their DIY weapons in the blink of an eye. The hooded girl freezes when she feels the cold barrels of the pistols pressed right against her head. But showing he's completely in control, the sergeant calmly orders the goblins to lower their gear and back off. Cutting through the toxic vibe, the blacksmith steps into the fight, telling both crazies to shut up immediately. Keeping her hand on the orc, the warrior says she has no clue what weird server this ex-military guy spawned from. Flashing a ruthless look, the military guy finishes her thought, saying that NPCs from such a remote zone should literally never even know about those beasts. Seeing how stressed the locals are getting, the commander points out that throwing hands here is bad for vibes and suggests they take it somewhere else. The brawl finally hits pause, moving the heavy argument to a quieter spot in the chill village night. Inside the private barn, the dwarf lightly taps the eggshell with a hammer to check out the item's durability. Judging by the metallic ping, the crafter confirms the thing is definitely not normal since the material outscales anything else in the zone. Boxed into a corner, the scout sweats nervously, telling the surgeon absolutely not to turn off the body restriction spell on her. Consumed by hate, she promises that the millisecond the magic drops, she's smashing the egg and will unalive the orc right on the spot. Laughing at her salty attitude, the blacksmith points out the elf talks a lot of trash and asks if she belongs to the main family of her people. Balik drops the tragic lore of a girl who lost her mom and wrecked her arm fighting the forest boss, losing her ability to shoot arrows. Tuning into the sad backstory, the sergeant finally gets why the girl has been acting so insanely hostile. Shook that her private lore got leaked, the elf grabs her scared arm as the painful flashbacks hit her hard. Still holding the egg, the dwarf claims that pretty much every high-level, long-living being knows exactly who she is. Putting the puzzle pieces together in his head, the military guy whispers, thinking about the tragic family loss and the permanent debuff she carries. Refusing to be the main character of this drama, the scout punches the barn pillar and yells at both of them to shut up right now. The girl's head fills with the brutal memories of the mountain raid, where her mom sacrificed herself to save her from the beast. With eyes full of pure spite, Celia declares that elf pain and payback can last for thousands of years. Making it crystal clear she won't quit, she swears her revenge against the beast and all orcs is going to be 100% complete. Trying to cool things down, the blacksmith points and warns that the girl is aiming her aggro at the wrong dude. Since that guy literally has a human soul. Blinded by rage, the girl screams she doesn't care, and as long as the guy uses that avatar, she will cancel his existence. Taking the warning like a champ, the leader scratches his chin in thought and coldly replies that her promise actually syncs up perfectly with his quest. The crazy comeback leaves the crafter and the warrior totally lost, unable to guess what kind of strat the military guy is cooking. Keeping the mystic egg safe, the surgeon explains his one and only goal is to find out who spawned him there and how to log out and go home. Keeping it practical, he says that right after he gets the intel he needs and dips, the warrior is totally free to finish her revenge quest. The blacksmith and the girl are stunned by the weird deal, wondering if the whole drama could really get solved that easily. Sweating bullets at the human's ice-cold logic, the dwarf asks if he really plans on just handing over a dragon like that. Taking the egg back, the sergeant grumbles that he literally can't break this OP item right now anyway. Staring right at the captive girl, he promises she can take the beast, only asking for the chance to interrogate it before she sends it packing. Surprised by his bluntness, Celia listens to the soldier confirm this is his only demand, leaving the rest of the run entirely up to her. A heavy silence drops on the barn while the duo processes the insane logic behind that trade. Out of nowhere, the dwarf loses it and laughs out loud, finding it hilarious that an orc would hand a green deity over to an elf. On the flip side, the little squad goblins start crying and panicking, seeing their idol get traded away so coldly. Seeing the perfect opening, the scout steps up and says she'll play along to crack the egg, demanding the relic be handed over to her. To defend their boss no matter what, the little monsters throw themselves on the shell, swearing they'll warm it up every day until the being hatches, just to punish the elf. Watching this totally embarrassing display, the crafter kills the mood by pointing out that, sadly, goblin hugs are never going to be enough to incubate a beast of that tier. Flexing his area knowledge, the blacksmith explains that the process needs a massive bath of raw, primal energy, which is impossible without his race's tech. Realizing he holds the actual solution, Balik looks at the human with a challenging vibe and says he also wants a piece of the loot in exchange for helping out. Flashing a greedy smile and a crazy look, the dwarf admits his real goal is to get his hands on the weapons the soldier used during the raid. The bold request catches the sergeant totally off guard, making him realize this ally wants the tech specs from his home server. Hyped about all this, Balik corrects himself and demands the human hand over all the blueprints and the exact know how to build those epic items.